Can you hear me now? Okay, so we've got some audio now, but I don't have the good camera on. Let's see, this may not be great audio. Let's see if I can do this. Here's something. Okay, yes, I'm seeing some green dots, so that's awesome. Let me try one more thing. Let me see if I can get the good audio going. I'm going to try that. Audio now. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, so everybody go to my website, www.tomrichey.net, and we've got some review guides for you that I'm going to go copy. Let's plan on getting started with this about 1:15 or so. Going to work on mostly early stuff. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and just print them all. And then, yes, try opening the window. That's awesome. We'll do that. Let's see. We've got. I'll tell y'all what, y'all all brought notebooks, right? Yeah. Okay, we may not worry about making copies. That's just going to complicate things. So I'll display the review guide on the thing there. Let me go ahead and get that going. All right, so can't really see that up there, but hopefully the live on look at that. Oh, no, no, get that water. All right. Okay, how many do we have here right now? Yeah, all right, oh, that's not bad. All right, so the thing is, Sean, I'm going to go ahead and position you both 5 minutes off here. Well,
oh, I don't know what happened. I don't. You can get the big spray. Huh? Spray? Yeah, I know, but I know. I'll just get maybe. Yeah, you can well, spray like but like my lips are always dry, and I like I just want to do it.
go.
Right. You could say something like or do something.
That's
All
the way over
here.
Yeah, he fixed it. He's like, now we're on.
At the front of my book, also got oh my gosh, I can't. Like on second.
Yes, we're getting our fill.
I'm gonna just show you this. Ew!
Like, I don't even want, I just don't even want to live.
You can sit down there. No, there isn't. I'll video you.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually good.
Oh, she has coffee. Yeah, I don't like you at all. Hey, fine. No, don't do that one. I don't think you got it. You did it like right when you got it. No.
I'm being very expensive, so like skip it and she watches the photos, like they're like 100 and she's watching for 30 seconds like time. I tapped it. Like, oh my god! Oh my god! I was like, I just saw it.
At least showed me that like right when I was got it. What?
All right, I've got some guides off the copier here, so y'all can go ahead and dig in, and somebody come over here and help me pass these out, so that we can get started a little faster. Thank you very much, ma'am. You. All right. All right, that's on the Reformation. All right, so then absolutism and constitutionalism is a different guide. So guides for Unit 2 and Unit 3 are coming out right now. The guide for Unit 1 is printing. All right, so you need one of each. One for Unit 2, one for Unit 3. Unit 1's on the way.
Unit. Oh, here, Nick, I got you. No, you have. Oh, well, are we going wow, you just took just
I did Unit 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I don't know.
I caught that. I hope you all caught that.
No,
I caught it.
All right, Unit 1. Unit 1 is here. Let's see, there are a couple of Unit 2s might be missing. Let's see, so we got Unit 2 there.
Okay, here's the kind of Unit 3 page. I don't know.
Actually, the 41 pages together, okay? So then there's Unit 1 coming around now. Shonda is bringing that around. Give me a copy of each one. Let's see, do we have all right, thank you, Krishna. All right, so that's Unit 3, and I need a copy of Unit 2. Okay, excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We've got our audience. Our audience has not left us. That is awesome. Okay, so All right, students, we are live. We are rolling, about to get our AP Euro on. All right, so let's see what we've got as far as questions. Well, 126 new comments. We want that to start probably updating automatically. Okay, so let's see. We've got, wow, that's a lot of stuff coming in. All right, so let's see if we've got, okay, art movements. I see something from Exia Sucks or something, art movements. We're going to do that on the morning of the exam. I'm going to have an exam review the morning of the exam at 9 a.m. So we're going to be sitting here, not exactly here, but another location. But we will be doing that from 9 o'clock to 11:30 Eastern. All right, let's see. So do we still have volume? Let's see. I'm getting those no sound things. Okay, we've got sound now. I'm getting no sound, idiot, you know, no, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's see what's going on. A lot of people couldn't hear. All right, shout out to all the people in Miss Boyd's class. Miss Boyd's class, XD, capital X, capital D. I guess they're smiling. Okay, somebody just tweeted. Okay, so all right, that's Elizabeth did tweet. A lot of stuff's just rolling in. Hi from Kata. All right, wherever Kata is. Yep, I'm fixing it. Okay, still a lot of people concerned about the sound. Okay, so thank you, Elizabeth. Hopefully wearing Dodger blue out there. Let's see. All right, so dome walls. Let's see. Wait. Let's see. Let's see if this person's even following me. If you don't follow me, I don't really tend to like bring attention to your to your Twitter. But all right. But at least this person's watching the live stream. I mean, so you know, beggars can't be choosers. Whatever. Take whatever I can get. Let's see. So. All right, we got a lot of stuff still coming in. The site, okay, somebody asked about Rosemarie. My website is just my name, www.tomrichey.net. There's a link from my Twitter. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with y'all just in case anybody wasn't here earlier. So if we go to full screen here, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and start the screen share. And let's take a look here. So if you go to myname.net, then there is /Euro, or if you go to tomrichey.net, okay, so that is my website, and then go to AP European History. You can watch my little channel trailer if you want to. AP European History, and then got a link to the AP Euro review playlist, and then we've got a link to this AP Euro review guide with Peter the Great on it. So if you go here, you can see there is the review guide, and that's what we're going to be working on first. I've got some of this that I'll probably save for another review, but lots of just general review sheets. I've got a list of people, big old list of people here, a little bit about women before, you know, during European history and how that process evolved. And what we're going to work on now are units 1, 2, and 3. We're going to look at the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Age of Absolutism. Okay, so we're going to be here talking about some things. And let's see, let me just run through the questions again. All right, shout out to Miss Collins. All right, that's Laeth. All right, so I just got here. What are they doing? We are reviewing Megatic 16. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to what we're doing. So go to my website, www.tomrichey.net, and follow along, and we'll be working on the review guide. Now, I'm going to kind of go back and forth between me talking and the review guide and that sort of thing. And I've also got a document camera that I'm going to go ahead and set up so that I can show that occasionally. All right, so let's take a look there. I think, let's see, where is that document camera little thing set up? Okay, there it is. All right, get that set up. So let's go ahead and start talking about the Renaissance. Now, one of the most important things about the Renaissance, now I have a video lecture on both the Italian Renaissance and the Northern Renaissance. So keep that in mind that those video lectures are available on YouTube. So I've got a formal treatment. This is really mostly for purposes of review. So we're going to cover everything a little faster than I do in those YouTube videos. Now let's see. So we've got the study guide here. Let's see. Let me go ahead and autofocus this. and this will be an option when I share my screen. So every once in a while I can get one of y'all's works. Some of y'all have better handwriting than I do. So if somebody's got good handwriting, if they can kind of sit near the front here so that I can grab your sheet and put it on the document camera here and there. Okay, so because what I'm going to do is go back and forth between the camera, and then here is a screen share where we'll be able to look at what we're doing. Okay, so I've identified 4 key authors and works of literature that you would probably need to know for the exam that would be very useful to you. First of all, there is Petrarch, the father of humanism. Okay, keep that in mind. Petrarch's the father of humanism. He found a lot of Cicero's poetry and you know, his books and all of that kind of. Well, Cicero didn't write poetry. I'm sorry, Petrarch was the poet, not Cicero. But Petrarch wrote a collection of poetry called Il Canzoniere, which was a list of poems, just a bunch of poems, like over 200 poems, most of them dedicated to this woman named Laura. Now, people debate whether, you know, Laura was a real person and that sort of thing, but Petrarch was certainly in love. I mean, there was inspiration there. There was one thing Petrarch wrote one time, like, hey, those people that say Laura isn't real, I wish that she weren't real, you know, because, I mean, this woman's driving me crazy. I mean, I'm just in love with this married woman who really doesn't give me the time of day, but she inspires me to write all kinds of genius poetry. Now, keep in mind that Petrarch's poetry, he wrote Latin poetry. Remember that humanism is all about Latin and Greek and these classical languages. So Petrarch is writing actually these poems, because they're romantic poems, he's writing them in Italian. He's writing them in the vernacular, because remember, if you were writing an epic poem for men, he wrote this poem called Africa, which was about Scipio Africanus, you know, using this Roman theme. And Scipio went to Africa, so he decides, hey, I want to write this epic poem based on Livy's History of Rome about this great Roman. So Petrarch, you know, rediscovered these Ciceronian texts. He also wrote, you know, epic poetry in Latin, and also wrote Il Canzoniere, which was dedicated to Laura. The reason some people speculated that she wasn't real is because Laura is also, that's laurels. Petrarch was the poet laureate. He got that laurel wreath on his head and all that kind of stuff. All right, so that's Petrarch, the father of humanism, a writer of poetry. Machiavelli wrote The Prince. Okay, now I've also got a lecture specifically on Machiavelli. If you look at my AP Euro YouTube playlist, which probably most of you here have, this is something that you know, will be a very good resource for you, a little more formal in that sense. But let's see, if we go to YouTube, the AP Euro playlist. Actually, you can find that on my website here, right above the review guide. And that's got 29 videos that could be of use to you. And you can see here, one of those is Machiavelli, The Prince. So for this unit, I've got one on the Italian Renaissance. I've got another one on Renaissance art, Machiavelli, the Northern Renaissance, and the Age of Exploration. So I've got 5 videos that are going to give you a more thorough treatment, but we're just going to kind of paint things with a broad brush today. All right, so Machiavelli, The Prince, is about pragmatism, okay? It's about the sort, you know, it's not the sort of virtue that you think of someone being a good person. It's the sort of virtue of someone being an effective person. So if you need to get the job done, Machiavellian tactics, they're very similar to Bismarck's concept of realpolitik, that you are not governing based on ideology, you are governing based on what is going to get the job done, what is going to help you accomplish your goals. So keep in mind that Machiavellian tactics aren't evil per se. It's not about doing things that are bad as a goal, but it's just the end justifies the means. Okay, so if you get what you wanted to get done, then whatever you did to get there is really kind of irrelevant. So keep that in mind. One of the most famous things about Machiavelli is he's writing that it's better for a ruler to be feared than loved, if the ruler had to choose. If you'd be feared and loved, then that's the thing. But this live studio audience I've got here, 44 of you that are watching online, you're not doing this because you love me. You're doing this because you want to prepare for the exam. You are afraid of the AP Euro exam, and therefore you are acting. Okay, so that's that. Now, oh, could I send someone to open the door, please? Okay, yes, I can do that. That person's probably not tuned in, but yes, we got somebody else wants to join our live studio audience. All right, so that's Machiavelli, and then there's Thomas More's Utopia. And Thomas More's Utopia is, which really utopia, which means no place. Okay, so utopia literally means no place, which is something he's imagining. Now, of course, when we think about humanism, this is an emphasis on the classics, Greek, Roman, and biblical literature. So when we think about humanism, then you're talking about Greek, Roman, and biblical literature. And he read Plato's Republic, or at least like a Latin translation of Plato's Republic. Of course, More and Erasmus were getting into more of the Greek phase of the Renaissance. But he was familiar with Plato. And in Plato's Republic, he went out to discover the ideal state. Okay, so Plato's Republic is about setting up this ideal state which got rid of institutions such as the family, got rid of various other institutions, got rid of social classes except for elected offices, didn't get rid of gender roles, okay, because keep in mind that these Renaissance humanists, everybody say hey to Monica, Monica's here. All right, there she is. All right, so we've got a live studio audience, what, 11 now? All right, so Thomas More's Utopia is about trying to set up this ideal state and is kind of socialist in scope in the sense that it is not based on the individual, it's based on how do we create a society. So how do we get rid of problems such as inequality and starvation and all of that stuff? So Thomas More kind of does this through an early form of socialism. And then there is Thomas More's BFF, Erasmus, who wrote The Praise of Folly. Now, here is another like very classical sort of thing, because what happens here is that in The Praise of Folly, folly is personified. And this was a classical device that you see a lot in Greco-Roman literature, where you personify an abstraction. So folly is actually going to be the narrator. And he writes, it's kind of a, lighthearted sort of satire in some ways. Like, for example, he says that it's easier to forgive people when they don't know what they're doing or when they say it was an accident. Like, for example, when Jesus is dying on the cross, he says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. All right, which almost like that kind of, okay, yeah, these people, like, they nailed me to this, these boards here and put me up and whipped me. They have no idea what they're doing, Father. So go ahead and forgive them. It just makes it easier. I'm sorry, I did not mean to lash you and crucify you. It was just a misunderstanding, right? So that's one thing where folly is just basically talking about folly. But another thing that's going on, and that is even more important about this work for AP Euro, is that Erasmus, a devout Catholic, is criticizing the Catholic Church. And he's criticizing their practices because he's going back to the original text, and this is kind of setting the ground for the Reformation, that Erasmus is going back to the original text, and he sees that in the Bible you've got these fishermen that are following Jesus. Peter was a simple fisherman. And you look at the Pope, who is the representative of St. Peter on earth, Christ's vicar on earth, and the bishops and all these people, and they're not simple fishermen. They are living like princes and kings. And Erasmus thinks, you know what, that is not what I'm reading about in the Bible, which is really going to lead to the Reformation, even though Erasmus remains a Catholic. This is setting the stage, because the Catholic Church of their day and the church that is portrayed in the New Testament were two totally different things. Now, when we think about just main characteristics of the Italian Renaissance, okay, so let's just kind of think about what are we thinking when we're thinking about the Italian Renaissance. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up a couple of slideshows that I've got here. And all of these slideshows that I'm going to pull up are on my website. So that's something that is going to be a valuable resource for you as well, tomrichey.net/Euro. This is coming up right now, I believe. Let's see, it's going to take just a second, hopefully. We'll see. All right, this computer is very slow. So first of all, let's see. Okay, so it's pulling up now. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Full screen. All right, there we go. Let me get a little better at this as I continue to practice. This Google Hangout stuff can be pretty complicated. Now remember that Renaissance was a word for rebirth. All right, so Renaissance coming from renascere, meaning rebirth. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at 5 things about the Renaissance. Okay, so the first 3 are what I call the values of the Renaissance, and especially of the Italian Renaissance, because the Northern Renaissance is going to be a little bit different. Okay, so first of all, humanism. This is the fascination with the Greeks and the Romans, and also human-centered thinking, whereas in the Middle Ages, the church tended to dominate things, that everything was based on religious thinking, that humanism, it's still going to be thinking by religious people, but it's going to be thinking on more of a human level. Like when you think about Thomas More's Utopia, how do we get rid of human suffering? Machiavelli's The Prince, how do we govern, and that sort of thing. Erasmus, who is less concerned about the church as a vehicle for salvation, as what is the church doing on a human level. Individualism, all right, this is the idea that there should be, I mean, again, in the Middle Ages, and keep in mind the Renaissance is kind of a reaction against some of the excesses of the Middle Ages, that the emphasis should be more on the individual than on groups, all right? The Middle Ages were about what group do you belong to? You know, are you a noble? Are you a knight? Are you a member of the clergy? Are you a bishop or a priest? Are you a peasant or a merchant or something like that? And then I've already kind of gone into secularism. So we've got humanism, individualism, secularism. One of the biggest things about secularism, and I've seen this assessed on the AP Euro exam, is that secularism is not necessarily, don't think of secularism as anti-religious. It's just thinking more about what's going on right here than what's going on in the heavens, okay? So it's just a more human-centered thinking, but these people were all profoundly religious. In fact, you know, Petrarch, the last of his poems in the Canzoniere, were actually written to the Virgin Mary. Several years after Laura died, Petrarch found him a new woman to adore. Somebody that, you know, he could you know, have a relationship with in his own way. And so those first 3 are the values. The last 2 are the vehicles, which are commerce and invention. Keep in mind that the economy is picking up. You've got a more market-driven economy at this time, driven by people like the Medici Bank and also Venetian shipping and all of that. And invention. We've got a lot of things invented during the Renaissance, namely the printing press, which is going to create an environment where more people can read. Okay, so we've got a more, not only where more people can read, but more people can get access to books and that sort of thing. Okay, so we have, you know, this fascination with Greco-Roman literature. The printing press is going to make it easier to get that out because people don't have to you know, don't have to hand copy a book if they want to. Now, moving on to classical art. I've got a lecture on this, and also I've got this slideshow on my website. Remember that medieval art is flat, it's kind of dull, it's very symbolic in nature. When you look at either Western Europe or Eastern Europe, it is very flat, you know, and it's not extremely bright. It's not extremely lifelike, okay? So when we think about the characteristics of classical art, my favorite painting to illustrate this is Raphael's The School of Athens, which, if you look here, you have all of the characteristics of classical art represented, of Renaissance art, you know, Renaissance classicism. So here we go. First of all, notice the bright, vivid colors. You know, everything about this painting is very, very bright and vivid. And that's different than medieval art. Also, you see perspective. You've got depth and realism here. Whereas in in medieval art, you don't have that perspective. I can see this in 3D. This is 3D art rather than 2D art. So by perspective, I might put like 3D after that. And then balance. When you look at the School of Athens, everything on one side is counterweighted by something on the other side. This is not like wild Baroque art or modern art that's random and that sort of thing, or romantic art that doesn't really follow conventions. There is a method to paint something, okay? Everything needs to be balanced against something else. And then finally, classical themes. Greek and Roman and biblical figures predominate Renaissance art. All right, so those four things: bright, vivid colors, perspective, balance, and classical themes. Those are all ways that you can identify a Renaissance painting. Now, you've got Renaissance sculpture as well. You see that Donatello's David, the bronze David, which was the first freestanding nude statue during the classical period. And then you see, the brightness here in the tribute money, which is an early Renaissance painting, and the use of chiaroscuro shading, okay, which you see where in a Renaissance painting, there's not a blank for this. I'm kind of giving you some extra stuff here that's not on there. I need to update this guide. It's not one of my more recent ones. So chiaroscuro, for those of you that are here live, C-H-I-A-R-O, C-H-I-A-R-O. S-C-U-R-O. So those of you who are not live, you might want to copy that word down and kind of think about how approximately to spell it so you don't look too stupid on your exam and get laughed at by your reader or something like that. So chiaroscuro shading is use of light to bring attention where you want the attention in the painting. The background is dark and the subject is lightened in the chiaroscuro shading. Now, here's what Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper hasn't been preserved very well. This is what it probably would have looked like when he painted it. This was a copy that someone painted, but not the original. Also, Leonardo's sketch things was very concerned about the human body, very preoccupied. Keep in mind, that's another thing about Renaissance art. It seeks to mimic real life. It seeks to get the detail of the human person. All right, then the Michelangelo's Pietà there. And note the pride of the artist where Michelangelo signed his work. Got a video on this where I do this a little slower. Michelangelo's David, note the contrapposta stance, which is a stance where one leg is straight. All the weight is pretty much put on one leg, which somebody sent me an article not too long ago how this sculpture may actually have a balance problem or something. It might be kind of unbalanced, and I don't know. I'm no art expert, but contrapposta stance, that's something you see a lot of in Renaissance sculpture, all right? There is Moses, which is a biblical theme, and you see that art, keep in mind that patronage, very, very important to note, okay? Patronage, which the two groups that patronize the arts most are the church and the Medici, all right? So the Medici family. And also classical architecture. I don't have something here for that on the guide, but keep in mind symmetry, proportion, domes, columns, basically stuff that looks Roman or looks like it came straight out of something you'd see in Washington, D.C. is a lot like the stuff that you'd see on the Renaissance. Symmetry, proportion, domes, columns. St. Peter's Basilica is probably your best example of that. And then this place here, this La Rotunda in Italy, this thing was built so that it was perfectly symmetrical on all four sides, and so it creates that symmetry. All right, so humanism. All right, we've kind of been over humanism. All right, we got a little bit of art review there. We've been over humanism, but let's talk about it again. There are three things. Does my live audience want to say something on that? Greek, Roman, and biblical, okay? Greek, Roman, and biblical themes, all right? So very good. So those are the themes that tend to predominate. that a lot of these sculptures and a lot of these paintings, they're either, you know, about something that was in ancient Greece or ancient Rome, or it's something out of the Bible. Now, of course, people got themselves painted and stuff like the Mona Lisa and that sort of thing, but the Greek, Roman, and biblical themes are very important. All right, and so Petrarch, who we've already discussed, was what? What's his title? Father of Humanism. Very good. Was the first one to really get people excited about, you know, the Cicero text. Actually, even wrote Cicero a letter a couple of times, correspond with a dead guy. I think he's bringing history to life. You know, a lot of smart people that we remember were crazy, right? And then there's Lorenzo de' Medici. And very important to note, Lorenzo de' Medici and the Medici family, they made a lot of money through banking. This is another thing where we see, you know, the vehicles of the Renaissance, commerce, okay? This is where banking starts to become prevalent, because during the Middle Ages, banking was typically only done by Jews because the church did not allow Christians to lend money with interest. So the Medici were some of the first Italian Christians to get into large-scale banking. And so when the taboo on lending money with interest goes away, then we start to see more encouragement to start a business venture. Because think about it. If somebody was like, hey, will you lend me some money and I'll give you the same amount back after I start my business? If it's successful. Now, if it's not successful and lose it, then you just lose it. Well, no, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to invest in a business unless they can make money. And so you've got a few things here that the Medici, through their bank, are able to spur business activity, and then they are also patrons of the arts. And the Medici family was from Florence and dominated Florentine politics. One other thing to note about Renaissance Italy is that it was very fragmented. And this is one of the things that Machiavelli is writing about in The Prince, which really he wants to see the kind of effective ruler who could put Italy back together. And so this is what Italy looks like. Of course, the late 19th century where we'll finally unify Italy, but you have the papal states, which are directly governed by the Pope, which today is just a small area called Vatican City outside of Rome or within Rome or wherever it is. And then Florence was very important here as far as the arts. Michelangelo was from Florence. The Medici were from Florence. And then the Venetians are important as well because they're you know, engaged in commerce and that sort of thing. But keep in mind that you've got several different you know, different Italian city-states there that you know, Italy is far from unified at that point. And that's really Machiavelli's dream, is like, what kind of awesome ruler could unify Italy? The Northern Renaissance. Okay, now one of the most important things about the Northern Renaissance is that in comparing it with the Italian Renaissance, the Italian Renaissance is very individualistic and very secular and also humanist. Okay, also these people are interested in Greek, Roman, and biblical literature. Now, when you look at you know, the Northern Renaissance, they're also humanists. All right, so we think the Northern Renaissance, they are also interested in Greek, Roman, biblical literature, but it is less individualistic and less secular. All right, so what you see in the Italian Renaissance is how can we improve ourselves as individual people? Where you've got all of these books, you've got you know, the book of the Courier that is written by you know, Castiglione, and he's writing about how to be a successful person in the court of a prince or somebody like that. How do I make myself a better person? Well, through the humanities, through this you know, human-centered learning curriculum with history and philosophy and languages and all of that stuff. The trivium of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, which goes even back to the Middle Ages. So the Northern Renaissance, they are humanists. They do like Greek, Roman, biblical literature, but they are less secular, which means, you know, more Christian-centered, and less individualistic, which means that they're more concerned about reforming society, which is why Utopia is a work of the Northern Renaissance, not the Italian Renaissance. Okay, so Thomas More's Utopia is, you know, it's about social reform. It's about religious centered thinking and that sort of thing that you don't see as much of in the Italian Renaissance. So keep in mind that as far as the Northern Renaissance is concerned, you've got Thomas More in England and Erasmus, who is Dutch. All right, so Thomas More and Erasmus, who are very good friends and corresponded with each other, would vacation together and all of that good stuff. And then they'd write stuff and they'd read each other's work and have a good laugh and all of that stuff until Thomas More got his head cut off by Henry VIII, which, that happened to a lot of people. Happens to the best of us, right? And then there is Johannes Gutenberg, or Johannes, or however you want to say that in German. I don't really speak the language that well. So Johannes Gutenberg, he is the inventor of the printing press. All right, so he is doing these experiments with movable type and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so keep in mind that the printing press is probably the most important invention of the Renaissance. And then humanist and the Bible, all right? So humanist and the Bible. Keep in mind that it is about the original languages, whereas in the Middle Ages, people were reading a Bible known as the Latin Vulgate. This is, written by St. Jerome in Vulgar Latin, but it was a translation, and the Catholic Church still holds that this is the Word of God. This Latin Bible is the Word of God, no exceptions. So the humanists, though, they're more concerned about the original languages. I don't want to read Jerome's translation into Vulgar Latin, which was bad Latin. I want to read the original good Greek, and even, if somebody's no for cheaper, go and read a Hebrew Old Testament. But the closer you can get to the original languages, the better. And this is what gets people, like, hey, I don't want to read the Bible the church tells me to read, but let me read the original and let me go back to the Bible for my information on Christianity, which is something that is still very prevalent today in all forms of Christianity, but especially sects of Protestant Christianity that very much emphasize that Scripture alone is supposed to be a source of doctrine. All right, let's take a look. If anybody here live needs to run to the restroom, get water or something like that, I need to get my, let's see, Nora, there should be a cable back there on that desk for my laptop and an extension cord. If you could bring, the cable's plugged into the extension cord, like it's all plugged in there. Nick, you're engineering and whatnot here. Like, yeah, PLTW. No, it's back there. It's on that back desk, okay? And then that plug right behind Nick, okay? I need to plug the laptop in. I need that extension cord and the laptop cord, which should, the laptop cord's over there. Okay, so Nora, you did find that. Awesome. All right, so that's there. I'm going to go ahead and check and see what's going on with our live audience. Let's go ahead and take a look here and see what's going on there. All right, so we've got that. Social history. We'll hit some social history in the course of things. Let's see. So, yeah, Nick, if you can help. Oh, we need, like, the extension cord plugged in, like, up there, over there, or something like that. All right, thanks for helping me get that. All right, so, Yutzi's watching. Okay, all right, so on the lowest, okay, okay, so yeah, you can determine the quality. If you're getting a lot of lag, turn down the quality and that sort of thing. Let's see, Elizabeth is afraid. Let's see, oh wow, okay, we've got some people ready to do some Unit 3 stuff. Yes, Sarah, you can rewatch this later, all right? Let's see, so we've got the study guide. Where's the study guide? Again, that's on my website, www.tomrichey.net. It's the website that shows up on the beginning and the end of my videos. And if you do that, click on AP Euro, and then you will see the study guide on that page. All right. Wow, Clinton, pressure's on me. Is anyone else as great on the exam, depending on the success of this stream? All right, so hopefully this is a great success. Every war, please. Okay, Allison, there is a handout in my review guide that is specifically about wars. Okay. Oh. Okay, review sheet 1. The first one is about wars. So let me go ahead and just draw attention to that. Okay, so every war fought in Europe, please. Now let me go ahead and try to focus you a little bit, all right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the review guide. And if you go up here, what I've done here is I've got a list of wars and a list of treaties that are important that I've seen come up on the exam and that sort of thing. So going from the 100 Years' War all the way to World War II, which I guess the Cold War technically could fit in there as well. But I've got a list of wars that I think matter. And what you need to do really is not know all the ins and outs about that war, but really just the causes and what I call the causes, course, the consequences, okay? Causes, course, consequences, conquerors, and the conquered, okay? So there are 5 C's: causes, course, consequences, conquerors, and conquered. And so, you know, for example, here, the fall of Constantinople in 1453, right at the beginning of this course, this signals the fall of the Byzantine Empire, okay? So if we think about the causes of the fall of Constantinople, we're thinking about, all right, the Byzantine Empire has been weakening, and the Ottoman Empire has been gaining strength. And, you know, Constantinople is basically all that's left of the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire that had been there for, you know, years and years, over 1,000 since Constantine had founded it. So in 1453, the Ottoman, you know, Turks finally take over Constantinople, and they did this because the Byzantines were pretty much broke. There was a guy that came up with an idea for a cannon, like this big old cannon that you had to have a whole bunch of animals to move around. And he has this idea the Byzantine emperor can't afford it. And so he goes to the Ottoman Sultan, and the Ottoman Sultan is thinking, you know what, I think I have some use for that. All right, and so he brings it to the walls of Constantinople, which had been unbreachable, and just bam, okay, so the Ottomans go into Constantinople. And the consequences of this, okay, so the conquerors of the Ottomans, the conquered the Byzantines, and what happens here is, first of all, Constantinople had been the eastern center of trade. So this is where people had gotten, you know, you had basically, if goods are coming from China and India and finding their way to Europe, they were going through Christian Constantinople. Well, now the Muslims control trade, and this is part of the reason why it's spurring the age of exploration. That's a consequence, because Western Europe is thinking, how can we get our hands on these Indian and Chinese goods without having to go through the Muslims? How can we find a direct water route? So the conquest of Constantinople spurs the age of exploration. Now, another thing it spurs is the Renaissance, because this is about the time people are becoming interested in classical literature. Well, when the Ottomans go into Constantinople, they close down all of the Greek universities, all of the Christian Greek universities. So you've got all of these Greek scholars who are without a job, and they're like, you know what, there are a whole bunch of people in Italy that all of a sudden they want to understand Plato. So they're like, hey, you know, I'm reading Plato, but he's kind of tough to understand. Could somebody explain this to me? And these Greeks are like, yeah, you know, opa, or, you know, however you say yes in Greek or whatever, okay? So the thing is, think about the causes and the consequences, a little bit about the course, just basically what happened, who won, who lost, why did it happen, what happened as a result. And you've pretty much got what you need to know. You don't need to know all of the ins and outs of the war, and that took me about 5 minutes to explain, all right? So, and that is plenty, probably more than enough for the AP European History exam. So keep that in mind, that you don't have to know everything about these wars, but just those 5 C's that I've outlined in my review guide. And you know what? I may have a session where I just go over that guide and figure that out. But until then, or in case I don't get around to that, this sheet is there, and you can use the model that I just gave you. You know, why are they fighting? What happened in general? What happened as a result? Who won? Who lost? Okay, so there is a reason why each of those things is important, and I'll make something more formal later with that there. A related thing is the list of treaties and international agreements. Okay, so the Treaty of Tordesillas, Treaty of Westphalia, Treaty of Utrecht. These are some of the most important treaties on the AP Euro exam and in the scope of the AP Euro course. So that's there, basically going from Tordesillas to the Maastricht Treaty, which set up the European Union. All right, so that's that. So let's see. So I'm not going to be able to hit on every war today, of course, but we are going to be able to get to some of them. And we'll talk about Louis XIV's War of Spanish Succession. Will be one of them that will hit pretty hard in a bit. All right. So wait, you'd see. Quit telling people what. Don't tell him what to review. Like, wow, he's like defending me over there. I've got a student that's sick, so he's watching. So he's just helping that. Now, definitely could use some more review in Renaissance. Cookie, if you have a more specific question, now keep in mind, y'all can also, let's see, my Twitter's not wanting to work right now. Let me go over here and see if I can pull up Twitter on this computer, because it's just my phone is not working that well. Yeah, so we're going to go to twitter.com. We may have our permissions run out in about 2:30, and I'll have to, if I get cut off, then I just have to re-enter the password or something like that. So just keep that in mind. Now let's see, going to Twitter. Cookie, if there's anything in particular that you want to do, then let me know. Okay, so that's that. All right, Nicholas. Oh, okay, yeah. So Nicholas was like, hey, I wish these videos were a little more organized. And I was like, what? And Nicholas is like, oh, I just found the playlist. Okay, so yes, there is a playlist. So all of my videos are in order. Of course, I've got a bigger emphasis on earlier stuff than later stuff because I just got around to it this year, kind of launching this channel. So it's going to get filled up. Also, I'm going to go ahead and just let you know that I teach A-Push as well. So those of you who are taking A-Push next year, I'm going to be doing stuff for A-Push too. So that's going to be awesome. Don't unsubscribe to me right after the exam or anything drastic like that. Okay, and Sam Thomas is at the AP Euro review session. Sam's right there. Okay, I tweeted about it. There he goes. All right, so let's go ahead and figure this out. Let's see. So let's see if I'm still getting updates and that sort of thing. Yes, Laeth, we're going to have some other stuff. Wilhelm's here. All right, man. Good to see Wilhelm. He's from, I believe, from Sweden. It's one of those Scandinavian things, I think. Yeah, he's Scandinavian. I don't think he's even doing the AP Euro thing, but he's with us. I think that is awesome. All right, so always good to see my friend Wilhelm. All right, so I mean we've got an actual European in the audience. Okay, the development of absolutism in France. Yeah, I think the ladies here are also having some Scandinavian guy here. They really think that's. Yeah, see, to them, the people that live here, Southern accents aren't exotic. It's those Scandinavian accents that are really the thing to do. I don't know. I can't really, maybe those guys on Dude, Where's My Car? The continuum. They're talking the continuum transfunctioner and that sort of thing. The continuum transfunctioner. I'm probably getting that all wrong. But anyway, let's take a look here. So, Ricardo, I am going to get to the development of absolutism in France. Keep in mind, there are a lot of comments coming in, so I might not see all of them. If you tweet at me, it might get you in a little bit better because those are a little more organized. Portlando, thanks for the follow. All right, that's awesome. Newest follower, Portlando. Britain's Babe. All right, so yeah, y'all go ahead and follow her on Twitter. Britain's Babe. Yeah, Britain's Babe. Which she's in Texas, but obviously excited about AP Euro. So yeah, let's go ahead. If you're online, go ahead and follow this person because she just followed me, and that's awesome. All right. So anyway, and we're going to review mid-18th and 19th century Britain's Babe. I'm planning on doing that tomorrow evening. I'm trying to get the time together, probably 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. I'm in a live stream with some 19th and maybe even early 20th century review. So yeah, thanks for the tweet. That was awesome. So let's see. I've got a few new notifications. Princess Rosemary, that's awesome. Okay, so you're here. Review the 30 Years' War. And Elizabeth, I got that here. I'm going to get to that. I've had this on my board for months. And I've never really made a formal video about it. My students are like, yeah, this guy never erases his board. It's been here. Oh, it was on there when y'all took the test. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and get a little bit more about this. Now, keep in mind that you can still email me questions, tr@tomrichey.net, and if I can answer your specific question easily, I'll probably do that by email, or I might do like a Q&A or something like that. So tr@tomrichey.net, or you can go to my website and contact me. So let's go ahead and continue with material. Right now, I am starting the next thing on the new monarchs. I'm going to briefly touch on the new monarchs and the age of exploration. So what you should be, if you've printed out the guide or you're just following along, the new monarchs. Okay, so there are lots of new monarchs across Europe. I tend to focus on Spain and England. Okay, to me, I think Spain and England are the most important. Now, first of all, let me go ahead and give you a summative statement on the new monarchs, okay, right here. The new monarchs in general increase the power of the monarchy. So the power of the monarchy is increasing as the power of the church and the nobility declined, all right? So when you think about this, think in terms of almost like a dress rehearsal for absolutism, all right? That when we're thinking about the new monarchs, absolutism finishes this process that the new monarchs started. Because when we go back to the Middle Ages, we're dealing with a lot of influence by the nobility and the church. Kings were not the most powerful people in the Middle Ages. Kings had to worry about having the endorsement of the church. They had to worry about having the support of their nobles, who, if enough powerful nobles, plotted against them, they could lose their throne or be beaten in a war or something like that. So what we're looking at is the kings and queens of these countries start establishing themselves and consolidating their rule a bit more. So first of all, let's go ahead and talk about Spain. I don't have a video right now about the new monarchs. That's not going to really happen before the exam. So this is basically what I'm going to give you about that and how to attack questions on the new monarchs. Okay, so if you're thinking in terms of Spain, all right, so in Spain, we've got, all right, I heard it. Somebody said Ferdinand and Isabella. Very good. Ferdinand and Isabella, collectively known as the Catholic monarchs. Let's see if I've got a pen right here. Okay, so basically we've got Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, and who we call the Catholic monarchs. And the major war here is the Reconquista. Anybody have any feedback on, any of the online people have feedback on the way I'm doing here, just kind of writing on this for you, then that's great. And so you've got the Reconquista, which was basically the reconquest of Spain, okay? So Spain had been held by the Muslims for a long time, and eventually over centuries, the Christian Spanish were reconquering the Iberian Peninsula, and Ferdinand and Isabella in 1492, this is very important that is when that process is complete. That is a very important year in European history because that's the completion of the reconquest. Now, there are a lot of ways that they're consolidating power, okay? So basically, the first thing that they do, now we know that 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So, that is something that happens. So they're sending Columbus on a route to try to create, to send him out west, whereas the Portuguese went east, but they're sending Columbus out to expand their riches, to promote trade and try to establish trade with the Indies. But 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but also 1492, Ferdinand and Isabella kicked out the Muslims and the Jews, okay? So 1492, Ferdinand and Isabella ran off the Muslims and the Jews. Before this, people had lived there. The Muslims had tolerated Christians, which keep in mind that Christians remained the religious majority in Spain throughout the period of Muslim domination. So the Muslims tolerated them, but once the Christian majority takes power again, they say, look, you have three choices: convert, leave, or die. All right, so those are your choices. All right, convert, leave, or die. And if you're left with that choice, then a lot of people, what they're going to do, they're either going to leave or they're going to kind of fake convert, okay, publicly convert. These people were called converzos that converted in an effort to try to stay. Now, some of these people may have been sincere, but typically when somebody puts a sword to your face and says, "Hey, convert to this religion," and you say, "Okay." Okay, Josh says that he will eat the bacon if that happens. Okay, that yes, that was another kind of test that that you can it's like, will you eat the bacon? Because Muslims and Jews can't eat pork. At least at that time, there are some segments of Judaism that can today, but typically back then, Muslims and Jews could not eat certain things. And so if somebody didn't eat their pork, didn't eat their bacon, it's like, what's your problem? Okay, that's every Christian's favorite food, right? This is before we knew about heart disease and that kind of stuff. People didn't live long enough back then to get heart disease, I guess. Okay, it's still our favorite food anyway, even though we know it's bad for us. I just had some bacon this morning. I tell you what, I took my daughter to breakfast, like bacon, French toast. It was just like, and then some of her pancake because she didn't eat all of it. So yeah, that was awesome. I love me some bacon. All right, so yeah, I would make a good Christian. I guess that's probably why I am one. But yeah, all right. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back to our screen share. So they're running off the Muslims and the Jews, and then you've got the Inquisition. Okay, now remember, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. If you hadn't seen that, you need to put in Monty Python Spanish Inquisition on YouTube. Inquisition, T-I-O-N. If I misspell anything, excuse me, because I'm trying to multitask here. So the Inquisition, now keep in mind that this was an effort by, a lot of times we blame the church for this, but this is just as much the state as anything else. It's not like the church came in and just started deciding we want to burn some people, all right? So we're going to do that whether the monarchs like it or not. It's more like Ferdinand and Isabella, like, hey, come on in, Dominicans. We want you to burn some people, okay? We're tired of all this heresy in our country, and could you please come in and, light some people on fire for us? So keep that in mind, that this is the state cooperating with the church. This isn't just, the church coming in and doing this on its own. This is part of this consolidation of power. That whereas under the Muslims, you could be whatever religion you want as long as you're Christian, Jew, or Muslim. Don't get too crazy or anything like that, or they'll kill you. But you have those three choices. Whereas for Ferdinand and Isabella, it's like now you have one choice because we're the new monarchs and we are consolidating our power. So part of that was consolidating their power through religion. Now, of course, Henry VIII is going to do the same thing. Henry VIII, instead of using the church, is going to challenge the power of the Catholic Church. So let's go ahead and start talking about England and what was over there as far as the new monarchs. Okay, so I believe typically if you know about Spain and England that you're going to do fine on this exam. So I'm giving you two examples here. So England, you start with Henry VII. And Henry VII wins the War of the Roses. All right, and let's see, Haley's getting all happy because she loves the Tudors and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, I found out that he actually killed Richard.
Yeah, like personally?
No. He they gave him the glory of it, but he didn't do it. The war. Yeah,
the war did it.
Yeah.
War kills people. War has a way of doing that. Yeah, that was at the Battle of Bosworth Field. Yeah, we're not paying attention in class. Like I said that in class. All right, so I guess however you found out, that's great. Okay, so Henry VII wins the War of the Roses, which, remember, this was the House of York versus the House of Lancaster. This was a civil war, okay? Now, what happened here was you have this civil war between the House of York and the House of Lancaster, and the House of Lancaster, the Red Rose, defeating the White Rose. Better red than dead is how I remember which rose was which, okay, which was a Cold War slogan. But the Red Rose is the House of Tudor, and so those had been the Lancasters, and so Henry had married into that family. So you have the War of the Roses, which was a civil war. Now, of course, when people are fighting civil wars, a lot of times that means that, the government was not that strong. There wasn't enough, a lot of central government. So it was easy to fight civil wars, whereas the American Civil War, after the American Civil War, the you see a lot of consolidation of government, and we haven't had a civil war since. So the War of the Roses is an English Civil War. Keep in mind, not the, okay, this is an English Civil War, okay, not the English Civil War, because that's going to be later. So Henry VII, the War of the Roses, and the consolidation of power here is that he starts, he starts increasing taxes, okay, so we see taxes going up. Then we see the court of the Star Chamber. Okay, and this established his control over the nobility. Okay, so what he could do in the Star Chamber is he could try nobles basically in private. Okay, so this was in private, and this is a way to rein in the nobility. Of course, both of these things are also going to be tried by Charles I, who pushes a little too far later on. All right, so you've got Henry VII, who uses taxes, the Star Chamber. Also, he founds the English Navy. All right, so we see that, expanding the army and getting into militarism, that sort of thing. Now, Henry VII's son is Henry VIII, okay? So Henry VIII would be considered a new monarch because he is also challenging the church and the nobility and consolidating his power. And the way that he does this is through the English Reformation. Okay, so when he comes into conflict with the church over his divorce, then he decides that he's going to start the Church of England. So any of these people, like Henry VII, Henry VIII, and then you've got Edward VI, Mary I, and then Elizabeth I. Those are all of Henry's children. Now keep in mind the Tudor dynasty is really most representative. Okay, these people are all of the Tudor dynasty, and we hear so much about them, but it's really interesting to note that this only went on for 3 generations, because you had Henry VII, his son Henry VIII, and then all 3 of Henry's children ended up taking a turn on the throne, 2 of them short and 1 of them a little longer. So they're using, in both cases, they're using religion. The Spanish are using the Catholic Church, whereas the English are using the English Reformation as something to consolidate power. All right, let's see if we have any questions specifically about the new monarchs. Anybody have any questions about that, either on what I said in general about the new monarchs, or if there's something that was specific that y'all just need some clarification on. Let's go ahead and check. Okay, so Bossuet, Bossuet was Louis XIV's court preacher, and I'm pretty sure his tutor as well. John Bodine was somebody that was a French writer as well. Okay, Nail loves him some bacon. Okay, so Clint, you've got something there, a link to the No One Expects the Spanish Inquisition video. What does it say in parentheses? Okay, where I'd written. Oh yeah, all right. So y'all got to kind of listen as I write, because my writing sucks. Okay. Now I've got a few things in parentheses. I noted that the court of the Star Chamber. This allowed Henry VII and kings between Henry VII and Charles I to try nobles in private. Okay, so Nalani, that hopefully cleared up your thing there. So let's see, War of the Roses. Is that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang song, Roses of Success, referencing to the War of the Roses? Do y'all know the answer to that? I don't know the song. Yeah, we'll look into that. Megatech 16. We will definitely look into that. I don't know about y'all. This is making it a lot more fun than reviews have been in the past. Like, go and see what's being going on here. Okay, Nalani, I will post that. I'm thinking about tomorrow evening for another review, and then sometime probably around 7 p.m. Eastern. Monday, anytime Monday after school, I'm probably going to have a stream going. And then the morning of the exam, okay? This is my linen closet. Somebody's showing me some communist propaganda, Bed Bath and Bolsheviks. A little bit ahead of us there, Alex. Let's see what I've got here. Okay, major idea. Okay, yes, Cookie on my Renaissance playlist that you can find on YouTube. I mean, my AP live audience. The playlist that's on YouTube, I do have separate videos on the Renaissance. I've got 5 videos on the Renaissance, okay, and I've got like 5 more or so on the Reformation. So if you want more information on the Renaissance, look at my videos. I've got some very specific stuff, okay, so you can take what I said here in the review, and if you want to expand on any topic, I've got a lot of videos on the Reformation. So keep that in mind. Yeah, let's see. Iron Dancing, I will go over the 18th and 19th centuries, but that will be tomorrow evening, okay? Daniel, the 2 houses that fought the War of the Roses were the House of York and the House of Lancaster. Okay, Catherine, that had not occurred to me. Yeah, that's interesting, okay? So were they allowing it? That's interesting. So now the Reconquista, Dragon 2-5. The Reconquista is typically the reconquest of Spain from the Muslims. Let me show you a map. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull that up. Reconquista of Spain. Could someone get me like one of those paperback books? I need to get my laptop to breathe. It's like just like a smaller paperback book so that I can pick my laptop up, let it breathe a little bit better. All right, so the Reconquista, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just a small, there we go. That's great. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the screen share. Here we go. You'll just put that under there. All right, thank you. That'll allow my computer to breathe and stay, cool and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and share the screen and take a look at a map of the Reconquista. So this is typically, now keep in mind, I'm going to go ahead and tell all of y'all, some teachers like to hate on Wikipedia. Haters going to hate. Wikipedia is one of the best sources of information for anything that is historical, and especially if it's not a current event or a current controversy or something like that. Historians vet these pages. So if you look at this stuff that's above the contents, it's a great way to, like, if you have a, just a quick question about something, just Google it, go to Wikipedia. The Reconquista means reconquest, a period of approximately 781 years in the history of the Iberian Peninsula after the Islamic conquest in 711, 718, the fall of Granada, last Islamic state on the peninsula. In 1492, it comes before the discovery of the New World in the period of the Portuguese and Spanish colonial empires that followed. Now, if I go here, then I can see the Reconquista. Oh, somebody's put prettier colors on this map. Oh, it's still, okay. So you see here, actually, it's a GIF, right? A GIF. Is it a GIF? .gif, yeah, let's do, we're channeling the Enlightenment here, right? What's his name? Dennis Diderot, okay? Do whatever you'd like. I'm king for a day, my only order is do whatever you'd like. So you see where this is going on over several centuries, okay? So I'm just going to make that a little bigger there so that you can see it. So it's starting in 790, and you see it happening. So the Reconquista is this process of reconquest, which wraps up by 1492. Okay, so that's third. Oh, they didn't show the last one. Like, how dare them? You're going to make this little animation and not finish? What's up with that? All right. So anyway, that's that. And keep in mind that Ferdinand and Isabella, they united a couple of separate kingdoms to form Spain. They had Aragon and Castile. Let me see if I can find a map of that. Portugal today wasn't united with the rest of it. Okay, so that's something to kind of keep in mind. That's basically what the Reconquista is, and kicking out the Muslims and the Jews was a consequence of the Reconquista. So remember, we were talking about wars, which the Reconquista is one of them that you should know. Let's think about the consequences of this, okay, and how that affected things in European history. All right, so let's see if I can take a few more questions. Let's see, what's the Twitter feed saying? Okay, I think I might have been cut off from YouTube, so let's take a look at that. Okay, is it still streaming and all that? I think are we good? Okay, so it's still streaming. So Google Plus, since it's streaming through Google Plus, the stream's not going to get cut off, but my ability to access Twitter and YouTube every hour and a half, I have to go back and. Yeah, y'all. Okay, so that's the thing. Okay, yeah. So keep in mind, those of you who are watching, If you're tweeting something at me, I'm probably going to seem to get the tweet, later. So, you might. I mean, the thing is, you're a little bit behind where I am because there's a little bit of lag in the stream. Probably 30 seconds to a minute or something like that. Okay, so if I go to Twitter now, let's see if I've got anything else happening here. 9 others following me. Okay, Holly Weaver. I've already learned more in this review than I have all year. Thank you. Emoji crying, maybe tears of... Oh, wait, are you saying same here? All right, my own students are saying the same thing, okay? So, all right. Well, then, all right. I see how it is.
More focused on the
yeah, be quiet. My students, be quiet. Y'all learned all kinds of stuff this year. Don't give me that nonsense. All right. Imperfect Mark and 9 others. That's awesome. Glad to see you here. So let's see. Imperfect Mark is the newest follower. Ron Paul guy. All right. We got a libertarian among us. Let's see. And then we've got Holly Weaver followed. Thank you for the follow, Holly. And let's see, so we've got stuff going on. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead just take about a 5-minute break. Let me come back at 2:30, and that way we've got some overachievers here who, as long as I'm talking, they'll probably not leave, even if they've got some kind of major, got-to-go emergency or something like that. All right, so keep in mind, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we are going to come right back. So 2:30, we will continue with the Age of Exploration. Yeah, all right, go stretch, whatever. Okay, I'm not going to do anything for about 5 minutes.
Like, if I was watching it at home, could I pause
yes,
it and then
they can. Actually, if somebody's joining in, they could watch it live. Or, yeah, it's totally like, well, do people still use TiVo? Like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. Let me go ahead and make a little slide. I need to make a little slide like we're on break kind of slide, don't I? Huh? Gotcha. Okay. So,
I was talking about it yesterday. Someone had a big house and they were talking about these are the best inventions ever. That's so brilliant. I love it. I can't finish it. Is that you?
Oh, look. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that's how is.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's like how we were dancing. They were like music, we were all just like, except for it was more like.
Someone at the college staff can go for isms at some point.
Oh, yeah.
we will, yes, we will do isms tomorrow. Watch what y'all say if the sound's still on, all that.
Wait, what's the Swedish?
Wasn't it?
Wilhelm, yeah.
Wilhelm?
He's got a comment, but yeah, but don't y'all insult my audience or anything
No, I
like
think
that.
it's Wilhelm.
Okay.
I wonder if Jesse.
It might be Wilhelm, yeah, I don't know.
Wait, is it like
Yeah,
recorded?
there we go, I think I heard it.
Yeah, you're like.
No, the video's not, that's what's on the stream. But yeah, don't touch my computer. Yeah, y'all can say hey to the online audience, whatever y'all want to do.
Hey,
Right. Don't run them all.
Run up.
Dang.
Guys, we're being captured and we're being forced to be here right now.
That thing is no, it's not.
Oh, yeah, true. He's really crazy.
He really is.
You guys.
You need to rewatch this.
Oh, my God. I don't know.
You guys, someone needs to go get that.
We're Okay. So where's the workroom? The workroom is the one that
It has
I love oh my god, remember the blue applesauce and like
Yes.
no, that was
Yes.
anyway.
Okay. Yeah, you're
So left out. I never talked about like nap time. Like I never. Monica's got the.
It's still,
Yay!
still.
Yeah, we know.
I was just trying to crinoline to go with it and it could be like what? Crinoline?
No, but the thing that
A crinoline is what your things like madrigals is what makes their dress. And then
I can't
I don't know. We're all like, what do you
Oh,
How do you like?
I
I can't really like. I don't know.
I used to be able to do it on my arm.
I can hula hoop like.
This is a kind of thing when it goes away.
No, I can't do it. It's so annoying. I'm probably gonna hear it. It's like, oh my gosh.
No,
I was here for my hand. I go like, yeah. I always hit this on my voice. I'm like, why would anyone ever listen to me?
I either sound like this or I sound like this. Yeah, seriously, I like if you like a
I saw an
valid
article that was saying
I'm
that
gonna
like especially when it's like a conference call for business people, if a woman is in charge, she should always like try to keep her voice. And they have like exercises like lower your voice because it's more authoritative. I've been trained. They put it over me. I can't even hula hoop. Wait, I guess I make it feel like I was less trained. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
There we go. Yeah, I should hula hoop. I just hula hooped, okay? Oh, did y'all get that? You gotta make a vine out of that or something? Alright, huh? Alright.
If they want to see something fun, tell them to go watch. What is it? Wait, Hobbs. What does Hobbs say?
What does Hobbs say? Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, a little promote. You know, I probably should do some of that stuff. I think during the next break, I'm gonna do like self-promote. We might throw up what does Hobbs say during another break. All right, live audience, let's go ahead and sit down, shut up, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
You can like give her some money to give her.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Akira got to retweet that. Y'all got to check this out, okay? She's like studying for her Euro exam while we're practicing for a piano recital on the same day.
You go, girl. Make him Hitler.
All right, hey, seriously, y'all better get that seat. Yeah, y'all better get in your seats. Okay, so let's see. Okay, Princess Rosemarie. All right, lots of positive emoji activity there. That's awesome. Okay, so here we go, and let me just inform my Twitter audience that we are still live streaming, just in case anyone is not sure about that fact. All right, so. Well, yeah, I've got there's at least one teacher. I don't know if I've got any Miss Snyder students here. I know Miss Snyder has told her students about it. She's awesome. I hope some of her students are here. So let's see. Let's go ahead and let's see Twitter.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Oh, come on.
I thought it was like something happened.
Okay. Hey, we're kind of still in the pre-scientific age here, so y'all need to like stop all that science stuff. Yes, yes, the witches. Yeah, yeah. I think if you don't, if you don't sneeze, then you are probably a witch.
God bless you to like cast out evil spirits that make you sick.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that's what they do.
So
Yeah.
when you say God bless
And y'all realize, you know, ladies, y'all are the ones talking. You realize like 75% of people who got burned as witches were women. So you're all suspect. Okay. Let's see. I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty accessing. Okay. All right. So hopefully it's straight. All right. So ladies, focus. Thank you. All right. I like the live audience as its pros and cons, mostly pros. Okay, so my students are awesome. Let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. We are going to continue with the with the age of exploration. Wow, whole class is what? No, your teacher doesn't suck, Stephanie. Like, come on, your teacher recommended my review. Like, I mean, good Lord. Yeah. Huh?
Remember that grades aren't in yet.
Yeah, but hey, but also like, yeah, her teacher's awesome because her teacher recommended this review. So yeah. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back focused. All right, we've got we're going to start with the age of exploration. Okay. So going to give you a quick rundown of the age of exploration because if we look at my AP Euro review playlist. All right, so if we look at that, we've got several. Let's go ahead and just go to the playlist on YouTube so that you can kind of see what's going on here. I've got several reviews, and so when we go to the age of exploration, there is a video on that where I go more in depth. So if you want something more in depth, that is an option for you. But for right now, we're going to do a quick review of the age of exploration. So the 3 G's, all right, so which 3 G's?
God, glory, and gold.
God, glory, and gold, okay. God, glory, and gold. Now keep in mind you've got a couple of motives, okay, to try to get to India and China, all right? So you want basically economic and all-water route. Because an all-water route from Europe is going to, get people there, okay? Now, here is India, Goa, and Calicut. These are settlements. These are Portuguese settlements and trading posts, okay? Now, religious, there was a guy named Prester John, okay? A guy named Prester John, which he wasn't really a real guy. He was kind of more of an urban legend. Something like that, a guy that they thought that maybe there is Christianity over there, that there are some Christians who have been separated from the rest of Christianity. So we need to go over there and unite with them, okay? So I guess that's how you get the church's support or something like that. But mostly economic, okay? So you're looking for the Indies, okay? So we're talking about India and China. Now, how do we get here? You've got Portugal, which is going east, okay, which is going east, basically around, hoping to get around Africa. Now, keep in mind that most of Africa before this time was a mystery to people, which still the internal part remains a mystery until the late 19th century, the era of imperialism. But Portugal is looking to go east, okay, on this all-water route. And you've got Prince Henry the Navigator, who was Prince Henry the Navigator, okay? So he founded a school, okay? So he founded a school of navigation. Like the Portuguese really didn't know much about what, was much beyond them. And so several different voyages finally get there, and finally they go around the Cape of Good Hope. Cape of Good Hope. And then it is Vasco da Gama. It's a guy named Diaz who actually gets here, D-I-A-S, I believe, because he's Portuguese. They use S's rather than Z's. Okay, so Vasco da Gama got to India, okay, and was able to get some spices. And, even though he had only a small amount that he brought back, as far as, small being like maybe one ship or something like that, he comes back and he gets him some gold and some glory and that kind of thing. Also fought a lot of Muslims around here who controlled the trade before that. So keep in mind that the point here is to create a direct route, okay? So Christians want a direct route, again, to the Indies without having to go through all these middlemen. So basically what you can get spices for in India and what you could get spices for in Europe, you know, lots of price discrepancy. It has to go through 10 or 15 middlemen to get to Europe. That stuff gets expensive. Today you can just go buy like cinnamon and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Cinnamon, sugar, which sugar comes from the Caribbean. But anyway, all those spices are really cheap now because of that. So really what we have here is Spain. You've got Columbus and Magellan. Columbus reaches the New World, but he doesn't know it. It's actually a guy named Vespucci who does that. Columbus thought he'd reached the Indies because keep in mind the Spanish were going west, okay? They wanted to try to go that way. Now keep in mind, no educated person really believed the world was flat back then. That's just kind of a myth that they believed that. They knew the world was round, so that's why Columbus did that. Nobody was really taking a risk at that. They just didn't know how big the world was. Now, Magellan was famous for his circumnavigation of the globe. Not personally his, because he got killed in the Philippines, getting involved in some kind of civil war. Don't get involved in civil wars in the Philippines, you know, whether you're Spain or Magellan or the United States later on. Don't do that. The result is an increase in global trade. And also, as a result, that the price of goods goes down. Okay, so increase in global trade, the price of goods goes down. The Columbian exchange is important because this is for the first time like things are being traded back and forth. Okay, so you've got basically stuff coming from the old world to the new world. So you have this exchange between the old world and the new world. So you have things like corn coming from the new world. You've got things like cattle and horses coming from the old world. You've got tobacco coming from the new world. So they're trading things that were previously unknown to the other side. So we have this increase in global trade. The price of goods is going down, and the availability of exotic goods is going up. So that's basically the age of exploration, just kind of in a nutshell. All right, now keep in mind you can watch my video if you've got some other things about that. Now, the problems in the Catholic Church. This is something that we're going to go on to Unit 2, the Reformation, or the Reformations, as some people might say, because there isn't really one unitary Protestant Reformation. As far as the problems in the Catholic Church, I would recommend my video. I've got several Reformation videos. This is a slide cast, Causes of the Reformation. I'm going to throw that on for you real quick just so you can kind of get a preview there. All right. So this is a slide cast, screencast, and this is you know, basically going into the causes of the Reformation. So I'm going to hit these really quick because the video is available. So this is just for review to hit this stuff very quickly. So as far as the Reformation is concerned, I've got a video lecture on the causes of the Reformation, Martin Luther's Reformation, explaining transubstantiation, the Catholic Counter-Reformation, and the French Wars of Religion. So all 5 of those topics have specific lectures from me where I get into it, so I'm going to hit those very briefly, and if you have any more questions, watch one of those more detailed video lectures first before we do anything else. So we've got 5 problems, or actually more than 5. I've got 7 problems here that you've got as far as the Protestant Reformation: simony, nepotism, pluralism of offices, absenteeism, uneducated priests, corruption, and the sale of indulgences. All right, so let me go ahead and talk about each of these very briefly. Okay, so first of all, simony. This goes back to, in the Bible, there was this guy, Simon the magician, who was, you know, really impressed with what Peter was doing, because Simon was kind of just a magician, trickster or something. And Simon Peter comes in, and he's actually, like, doing real magic stuff, healing people and all that stuff. So people are like, hey, this real guy is, you know, better than you, and we're going to follow him because he can actually, like, heal people and that sort of thing, and that's kind of cool. And so Simon the magician is like, hey, Peter, I will pay you to know what you know. If you can teach me this stuff, this real magic, I will pay you some money. And Peter's like, get out of my face, you know, get behind me, Satan, which I think that may be what Jesus said to Peter or something. But anyway, Peter just basically, he didn't like that, right? All right. So that's the thing. So simony is the sale of church offices. So if you want to be a bishop in the late Middle Ages, it was expected that you are going to pay a certain amount of money for that office, all right? That you are going to say, like, hey, I want to be a bishop. I'm willing to give this money so that I can do that. Nepotism comes from the Greek word nepos, which is to put your family in places. So people are getting their offices based on their connections with other people rather than by merit, okay? So then pluralism of offices. Some people actually had more than one office that they occupied. So, you know, this is predictably going to lead to absenteeism, you know, which means basically you're not there, okay? So absenteeism, the person that's supposed to be there, is not there. Uneducated priests, okay? There were priests that didn't know how to read Latin or the original languages or anything like that. So that's something that, you know, especially in an age like the Renaissance where people are getting more educated, you know, you think about Erasmus and Thomas More, they're going to church and that priest can't read Latin as well as they can. They're not going to be very impressed. Corruption, of course, when you've got people that got their offices because they paid for it or because of who they knew or, you know, they're not going anywhere, they're not very educated, you're going to see a lot of corruption. And really the most flagrant corruption is the sale of indulgences, okay? And what an indulgence is, think about like if I had some chocolate one time Nora, hey, yeah, I think it was Nora, you brought me that Carlos Quinto bar, didn't you? Oh, yeah, I mean, I indulged in that thing, okay? Carlos Quinto, like, it's like Carlos V, which is actually named for Charles V, who we're going to talk about in the Reformation. That's why she brought me that, because I talked about this Mexican chocolate bar. And, you know, I like to indulge once in a while. I try to be pretty healthy. You know, it's like you want to be healthy because you don't want to, like, get sick and die and that sort of thing. But every once in a while, we may indulge. We may, you know, just do something kind of for our own benefit. We may make a little exception or something like that. So, you know, you go back to the Crusades and what happened here, because God wills it. God wills for the Christians to go fight for the Holy Land. Well, what happens here is the Pope gave an indulgence. It's like, you know, hey, we all sin here and there. Keep in mind that's based on what Jesus told Simon Peter. You know, thou art Peter, upon this rock I will build my church, which you shall bind on earth, I shall bind in heaven, which you shall loose on earth, I shall loose in heaven. And so the Pope, according to the Catholic Church, has the ability, the authority to forgive sins because the Pope is the successor of Peter. So the Pope, you know, he can forgive sins, so it's like, during the Crusades, like God wants you to go to the Holy Land. So maybe you stole something from somebody, or maybe you had an illegitimate child, or maybe you killed somebody. If you go fight in the crusade, that's all gone, okay? Your sins are forgiven, all right? You go over to the Holy Land, your sins stayed back in Europe where you came from. So that is an indulgence. Basically, the Pope, you know, or the church, somebody, you know, operating under the church's authority, forgiving sins. Now, that had been done and is still done as far as, okay, you did a penance, and so therefore you get this indulgence. So what happens here, though, it's one thing for the Pope to say, like, you do something and you're forgiven, you show penitence and you're forgiven, but to say, like, hey, give me some money and you're forgiven, all right? And that is exactly what Johann Tetzel did, all right? So going into you know, the causes of the Reformation, Johann Tetzel, this guy was a monk who was going around preaching. And he was preaching, you know, that basically, what is it, the little jingle he had that when translated to English goes something like, whenever coin and coffer ring, a soul from purgatory springs. Okay, so this goes back to the concept of purgatory. The Catholic concept of purgatory was a pretty rough sort of thing. Let me go ahead and show you a little bit of purgatory. All right, now here is my favorite image of purgatory and what that must have looked like. This was by a medieval artist. Okay, the whole rationale is that you, in order to get to heaven, your sins can't go up there with you. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to need to be purged, purgatory. Okay, purgatory. Think about that. And so what you do is you got to go into this cleansing fire. You've got to suffer. And you go in there and you're like, ah, burn it up, ah, you know, that sort of thing. And keep in mind that everybody that's in purgatory is going to go to heaven, okay? Purgatory is not some place where, you know, Jesus decides what he's going to do with you. Purgatory is a place where you go to get purified. Think of it as kind of a waiting room for heaven, except it's like a very painful waiting room with fire and all that kind of stuff, probably molten lava from what it looks like in there. By the time you get out of there, your sins, you're not thinking on the sinful side. You're thinking like, hey, let me just go up to heaven. It's like, this guy here, if you look at him, it's like he's been through the fires of purgatory and it's gotten rid of his sinful nature and all that. And here's this naked woman here, and there's an angel, and there's heaven. And this guy's like, I just want to go to heaven. I'm going to heaven, Lieutenant Dan. And so it's like, naked woman over there, she doesn't interest me anymore. Okay, all these little like alligator-ish monkeys or whatever those things are. So he's like, I just want to go to heaven. So it's like, okay, we're going to put you in the cool pool here. Even churchmen, everybody has to go to purgatory. This guy's got on a bishop's hat or something like that. So it's like, all right, we're going to cool you off, and then we are going to take you up to heaven once you have been purified. But the thing is, you want to spend more. The thing is, what was I saying here? I'm talking about purgatory. You want to spend as little time in purgatory as possible. Like, that hurts, all right? So you don't want to be here for all that long, all right? You want to be there only for a little bit of time, all right? You don't want to just be hanging out there, like, burning forever. So the whole point of selling indulgences was by buying an indulgence, you could get your relative out of purgatory, all right? So they're in there suffering, getting beaten and putting in hot fire and all that kind of stuff, and you have the power to get them out of there. So if you could help your family get out of purgatory, why wouldn't you, all right? So there's a guy named an Augustinian monk named Martin Luther who, for whatever reason, has a problem with this, church preacher going around telling people, if you pay me some money, I can get your family out of purgatory. Now, why has Martin Luther got to be hating like that? I don't know. I mean, people are just trying to make a living, right? They're trying to build St. Peter's Basilica. They're trying to build a church in Rome. Really pretty church, all right? But Martin Luther's got a problem with this. And Martin Luther decides that he is going to post 95 Theses. Now, I don't know if he actually nailed them to the door. There are different accounts or whatever. That's not what matters. What matters is that the 95 Theses are being posted, okay? They're being made available. Now, a lot of you are, getting all, just hot and bothered about having to write 3 theses on Wednesday, one for the DBQ and one for each FRQ. But, that's, Martin Luther wrote like 95 of them, okay? So keep in mind that for every thesis you have to write on Wednesday, Martin Luther wrote like 31 and some change. So, that kind of puts some things into perspective. The 95 Theses. So the 95 Theses, what they did was they basically are 95 objections. And this is in alignment with the medieval, idea of, disputation, that you come up with a thesis and you defend it. And the whole point of coming up with this thesis is that you take a position on something and you say, I would like to debate these things in public. Okay, there was a guy, Pico della Mirandola, who wrote the Oration on the Dignity of Man during the Italian Renaissance, and this guy actually wrote like 900 theses, and he was like, I'll pay anybody who wants to come debate me. I'll pay their expenses. Real interesting guy. I want to make a video about him because he was awesome. But Martin Luther writes these 95 Theses, and these are 95 points of discussion that Martin Luther would like to have about the church. All right, so that's that. He wants to start this discussion, wants to initiate this discussion, and the church really isn't interested when they see his 95 Theses, because Martin Luther, he starts off by complaining about like the sale of indulgences. But then he starts thinking, and he's thinking, what gives the Pope the authority to forgive sins anyway? I mean, what's the deal here? I mean, what makes the Pope so special? Why can't God forgive sins? Where does it say in the Bible that the Pope can forgive sins? Well, church will tell you, well, it says that to Peter, and then we do this, and, you know, the Pope's there of Peter. But the thing is, Martin Luther's like, I don't see anything directly about that in the Bible. And so Martin Luther gets in the middle of, you know, Charles V, who is the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, let me go ahead and show you something here. Charles V, or as they call him in Mexico, Carlos Quinto, where they got the chocolate bar named after him. It was a pretty big deal. So let's go ahead and look at Charles V. And I'm introducing you at this point to the Habsburg dynasty. All right, so if you haven't heard about the Habsburgs, hopefully that's the case. But there is Charles V. He's got that trademark Habsburg chin. All right, the Habsburgs, through generations of inbreeding, produced very pronounced chins. It was said that Charles ate his meals alone because he was his jaw was like messed up. Like he would eat real messy because his jaw didn't work right. We're going to run into none of those inbred Habsburgs when we get to Louis XIV. All right, so basically what happens here is he is Holy Roman Emperor. Okay, so the Holy Roman Empire was this entity that made up Germany. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Like what is now Germany. Was mostly absorbed in this Holy Roman Empire, which, according to Voltaire later on, said it was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. This Holy Roman Empire was really just a very loose confederation, a very loose association of German states and principalities. There were over 300. Now, there were some of these that were larger than that. You've got like Brandenburg, you know, which Brandenburg, Prussia is going to be the dominant force in Germany later on. So some of these are very large, like the Kingdom of Bohemia. Then you've got, you know, Austria that's kind of dominant there. And then you've got this little area here that's just like, whoa, like some of these places are just cities and they're fully independent as part of this Holy Roman Empire. Now, the people who were like rulers of these larger parts, they were called electors. So Charles V is Catholic. Keep in mind that Charles V is Catholic, and he wants to put down Martin Luther. All right, so he brings Martin Luther to the Diet of Worms, however you'd say that in German. Now, that's not like that book, How to Eat Fried Worms. That's, you know, just basically an imperial council, and he wants Martin Luther to defend his doctrines. Okay, so Martin Luther gets in front of the Diet of Worms and he defends his doctrines. And, you know, he does it with so much vigor that there's a story about Martin Luther that one day when he was done, kind of like, you know, I mean, I've been, you know, talking about AP Euro. Imagine if your life is on the line or you think your life's on the line. You're talking about your deeply held beliefs and you're challenging this authority that's in front of you. When Luther was done, somebody, like, brought him a beer, and it said that like he just downed the thing in one gulp because he was just so tired and thirsty, or something like that. They even have like a beer named after Martin Luther. So just you know, do with that what you want. But yeah, it's like literally like Luther beer. You know. So anyway, so Charles V is Catholic, but then there are some of the big rulers within the Roman Empire, Holy Roman Empire, that see this as an opportunity. So Frederick of Saxony, he decides to take Martin Luther under his protection. So when Martin Luther is declared to be an outlaw by Charles V after the Diet of Worms, then Frederick of Saxony is going to give him protection. So Frederick of Saxony, let me show you a picture here. Frederick III, Elector of Saxony, really big guy. Okay, there's old Frederick. He doesn't look too happy. Where's the thing about Frederick and Martin Luther? Let's see. If I go to Google Images, I'm probably more likely to find this this thing I'm looking for. Let's see. Frederick of Saxony, Martin Luther. Where's that painting? Well, there's a painting that's pretty famous of Frederick of Saxony, like standing in front of Martin Luther and his followers and all that. I can't find it. Let's see. All right. Well, not finding it right now. But basically, keep in mind that Frederick of Saxony, which you know for the exam, is He's Luther's protector. And so what ends up happening here is that some of these some of these more powerful rulers within the Holy Roman Empire, they see religion in this age of the new monarchs as a way to get some autonomy and that sort of thing. So Luther is supported by a lot of nobles, especially in today is northern Germany. Even today, Germany in the north is more Protestant, and in the south is more Catholic. So the German Peasants' Revolt happens here. Now, that's something that I've gotten some questions about. The German Peasants' Revolt, this is a revolt of the German peasantry. Now, Martin Luther was like writing these things about how we're all equal in the sight of God. He wrote about the priesthood of all believers, that sort of thing. We're going to talk about that stuff, and how basically everybody's equal in the sight of God. And since we're all equal in the sight of God, the peasants are thinking, well, why do we live in this very hierarchical system where we've got the church ahead of us, we've got the nobles ahead of us? And so the peasants revolt, and as they're revolting, they use Luther as a justification. Like, hey, Martin Luther says we're all equal in the sight of God. Well, the thing is, Luther's relying on nobles for protection. And so while these peasants are revolting and they're saying, hey, Luther's our friend, we're just doing, what he wants us to do. And Frederick of Saxony and the other nobles are like, Martin Luther, you better get a handle on this, or else, we may not be protecting you so much anymore, because we're not protecting you so that you can, just get all these peasants all revolting. So Luther writes a tract called Against the Peasants, and what he's writing is like, look, I'm not for this, okay? I said we're all equal in the sight of God. I didn't say we're all equal here. I didn't say to go around burning stuff and killing people and all that kind of stuff like you're doing. Y'all need to get back to work. And this goes to a printer, and the printer takes this title Against the Peasants and he expands it like, against the, just stupid, dumb, thieving, murderous, no good, dirty peasants or something. I mean, some kind of title like that it's really dramatic because this printer was like, yeah, let's make this a really dramatic title. So Martin Luther sides with the nobility here, partially at least because he depends on their support. Now, maybe he really sympathized with the nobility or something like that. Maybe he didn't care about the peasants and the poor people. I don't know. But for your exam, keep in mind that he is getting pressure from the nobility to speak out against this revolt. Let's see, Nicholas. Nicholas asked me about AP Gov. That was random, but go to my friend Hip Hughes. Okay, let me go ahead and respond to that tweet. Yeah, so if any of you are doing AP, like if you're seniors and you're doing AP Government and AP Euro, Hip Hughes History, just check that out at YouTube. He does a good job with that AP Government stuff. All right, Lexi, I'm your best friend or something like that. Me and my videos are going to be her best friend. That's awesome. I like being somebody's best friend. All right, Cole Insminger, thanks for the follow. We've got something. Tom Richey is on the TV, but that's it's loading. John Smith, thanks a bunch. All right. So anyway, let's talk about the Peace of Augsburg. Okay, so what is finally decided? Although the Habsburg Holy Roman Emperors were, very much Catholic, there's still this undercurrent, and there are people who are threatening to revolt because they want to be Protestant. So the Peace of Augsburg, it operates on the principle of Cuius Regio, whoever reigns, eius religio, okay, which is whoever reigns is religion. So the Holy Roman Empire, I showed you all that map where you got like all these little principalities and all that kind of stuff. Well, whoever controls that individual principality gets to decide what the predominant religion will be. So you have a choice between Catholic or Lutheran, okay? Eventually, after the 30 Years' War, which I am going to get to in a little bit for Elizabeth and others who are concerned about that. That's going to be expanded to Calvinist, all right? But the Peace of Augsburg, your choices are, the ruler's choices, not your choices, because the thing is, if you live in Saxony and Frederick of Saxony says, I'm going to be Lutheran, then everybody in that area he controls has to be Lutheran. Whoever reigns, his religion. So whoever is in charge of that area, that's the religion that's going to be. So, not everybody in the Holy Roman Empire has to be Catholic, but if the ruler of that area says you have to be Catholic, you do. So it's not a matter of local religious toleration or individual religious freedom. It's more the Holy Roman Empire decentralizing. And keep in mind, we are seeing during this time period that the influence of the Holy Roman Empire keeps going down and going down and going down until finally Napoleon's just going to get rid of it when it's gotten pretty meaningless. I've got a video on the Eucharist, okay? So just type in transubstantiation. My video is one of the first that comes up, or you can go on the playlist and get that. Keep in mind that that's one of the big theological debates. When Jesus says, take, eat, this is my body, what's that mean? Okay, what's Jesus trying to say here? Is he being literal? That's what the Catholics believe, transubstantiation. All right, let's go ahead and just go back to our little guide here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that up while I fill this out. Keep in mind, just going to be very brief, and if you want more, just take a look at that video. Transubstantiation, Roman Catholic. This is all about what does that mean? This is my body. Now, transubstantiation, literal, okay, that this is the literal body and blood of Christ. Jesus is not speaking in riddles. He's not speaking an allegory or anything like that. He's not playing a joke. Jesus isn't like, oh, yeah, this is my body, like, haha. Jesus is saying that, red letters, all right? Jesus said it, and he's saying this because, I totally should get a red pen. Can somebody look on my desk for a red pen? Because I probably just have one. I mean, I'm a teacher and all. There we go. Yeah, somebody just see what, yeah, thank you, Sam. All right, so literal, all right, so there's red letters. Now, consubstantiation, now Luther, it's kind of like, when you get into theology, this is, Luther's kind of like this, where consubstantiation, keep in mind, in Spanish, con means with. Okay, so trans means it changes substance, okay? So when the bread and the wine are blessed, it changes substance, it is literal. Consubstantiation, it's like with substance, two substances. Basically, this is a figurative, okay? That basically it's sort of a figurative or spiritual presence. And so, when Jesus says that, he's not telling a joke, but he's, it's just, kind of like, hey, I'm spiritually present in this. Now, then you've got this idea of a memorial, which just means that it is purely symbolic. And what you see in Baptist churches who subscribe to this view, the emphasis is not on this is my body, but more on in remembrance of me. Okay, so in churches that such as Baptist churches and others, they say that, like, look, all we're doing here is going through a ceremony to remember the Lord. Okay, that there is certainly no literal transformation like in the Catholic Church. There's not a figurative or spiritual transformation that is kind of the idea of Luther. Similar to what Luther and Calvin are putting forth. It is purely symbolic, and that actually becomes a breaking point. Like, keep in mind the Reformation. It's really not a Reformation, but Reformations. This is something that you notice that not only is it a divide between Catholics and Protestants, but Protestants are divided here. Over what does this mean? So basically this whole idea of sola scriptura and all of that stuff from Martin Luther. Keep in mind, I've got a video about Martin Luther. It's pretty informal, but it hit all of that stuff a lot harder than I'm hitting it now. So the Counter-Reformation is another movement here. The Counter-Reformation, which is led by people such as Ignatius Loyola and Teresa of Avila. This is basically the Catholic response, okay? So keep in mind, for Newton, this is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. All right, so Ignatius Loyola is the founder of the Society of Jesus, otherwise known as the Jesuits. Okay, and the Jesuit order, what they were about was spiritual warfare. And they specialize in going into places, whether it's a Protestant area or an area that is not Christianized at all, and advancing the message of the Catholic Church. what you're seeing is like the education of priests is going up because the Jesuits are all about education. So what you're seeing here is there are problems here that led to the Reformation, right? We've got all of these problems, and one of the things here is that you know, a lot of these people are leaving because there are so many problems in the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church, the Counter-Reformation, is about a Catholic response and addressing problems. All right. And so Teresa of Avila was a Catholic nun and mystic. There's actually a painting. It's a Baroque, you know, not a painting, I'm sorry, it's a Baroque sculpture, The Ecstasy of St. Teresa. The Ecstasy of St. Teresa. Now, if we look at the Ecstasy of St. Teresa, we see here, you know, the spirituality. That's another thing that's promoted here is, you know, Ignatius Loyola wrote his spiritual exercises, but you see here that, you know, she is overcome by this encounter with the angel. You know, so you see this very intense spirituality in this sculpture of St. Teresa. So you've got education, spirituality, basically that the Catholic Church is going to work on providing a better product. Okay, so the Council of Trent, what it did is, as I've said already, it improved education of priests, reforms the church internally, that sort of thing. But what's most important to remember here is a principle, all right? And I just want to go ahead and display that text on the screen here, just so that is you know, that is hit home. Okay, so the Counter-Reformation PowerPoint is available on my website, and then the lecture is available on YouTube. So keep that in mind. All right, so the Council of Trent. Two things here. All right, the Council of Trent actually meets in several sessions, but the main thing here is that the affirmation of Catholic doctrine and the reformation of church practice. Okay, so bring that into the exam with you. The council in your head, of course. Don't like write it on your hand or bring it. I'm not telling anybody to cheat on the exam. Bring it in your head. Bring a lot of stuff into the exam in your head. Don't bring anything in your hand. All right. So I don't need people like, Richie told me to bring this. All right, I've got my Council of Trent in my hand here, and I'm not letting go. So the affirmation of Catholic doctrine, which is basically our doctrines are not the problem, okay? The problem has been with administration of the church, okay? So what they do here is they you know, declare all kinds of anathemas and stuff like that. It's all in my video. But the reformation of church practice, all right? So if you bring those principles in, that you've got the affirmation of doctrine, that doctrine is not the problem, okay? So that it did not reform doctrine, okay? Did not reform one iota of doctrine, condemned all of these Reformation reformers, and it did reform practice. Okay, so basically addressed corruption and all that kind of stuff. So if it had to do with the administration of the church, it did something about that, but it did not do a thing to change Catholic doctrine. So it is doing one thing, not doing another. Okay, so let's see. I want to take just a quick break from the actual you know, lecturing here, and go ahead and when I come back, let's see, I've got this that we're going to do. So I've got a Reformation graphic organizer. If some of y'all have just tuned in and you haven't printed this stuff out and you'd like to, or something like that, you know, so you can follow along, that'll give you a few minutes to do that. So we're going to look at the Reformation graphic organizer. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I've got any questions so far, and then we'll have the religious wars, okay, the wars of religion and the 30 Years' War, okay, so we're going to look at that stuff as well when we come back, but let me go ahead and see what's going on out in the online audience. If my students need to take a quick break, that's fine. What's that? Peace of Augsburg? All right, they just have to go back a little bit, okay? Because we've already discussed the Peace of Augsburg. The what?
Someone asked what's the time period for the Protestant Reformation?
Yes, the time period we are on the Reformation right now. Let's see, Beautify Bernie. I'm going to be going on for probably a couple more hours. I mean, I can see the way it's going right now. I'll probably be here till about, still probably between 4 and 5. Okay, Megatick 16 is about to understand what the Jesuits are. That's pretty awesome. Yes, Catholicism was in there somewhere, Jasmine. Donkey, y'all. Let's see. Thanks, y'all. Okay, so let's see. Jacob, under the Peace of Augsburg. The two choices, Nalani, those were Catholicism and Lutheranism. All right. Sierra just said something. I don't know what Sierra just said. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so let's see. That would be helpful. All right, so let's see what would be helpful. This is actually really helpful. Thank you, Beautify Bernie. Who knows? Maybe I will actually pass the test. Okay, I would certainly hope so. Let's see. Yes, and Nalani is correct. I'm planning on about 7 p.m. tomorrow evening Eastern Time. That is going to be that I'm be on there again. Now, keep in mind. Let's see. Some of y'all are asking questions that you could just get into Wikipedia and answer that in like 5 seconds. ROTFLMBFUAO. Somebody's laughing pretty hard over there. Oh, documents. Okay, let me go ahead and do that. All right. So let's see where we are right now. All right. So if you are new with us, you weren't here earlier. If you go to tomrichey.net. And then you click on AP Euro. Okay, that's how to get to the document collection. And I am going to be, resuming in a bit. I'm going to be looking at some of these questions. Let me see if I can get on. If I can get on Twitter, I've got a little bit better of a phone connection than I had a second ago. What? Ask me questions that make sense. Like,
you need to get a feather for your hat.
Oh, you got a Cavalier hat. Oh, I definitely do.
We'll get you a feather for your hat. Do you say? I feel like whenever I never hear about Cromwell, I called him something else. What was it?
I wrote about Cromwell for my English essay that I reviewed from Europe.
That was such a good idea. No, I feel like I wrote about Oliver Cromwell or something, and I called him something else. It was like a person, but someone who looks like
I love me some Louis XIV. Oh, you know what? I should put my Louis XIV. Is that person wanting to do that? Let's put my Louis XIV rap on. Let's see. Wait, I never played my rap. When we had Snowpocalypse, I wrote a rap. Like I just got I found this beat online, and I was just bored with all that snow or whatever. And let's see. Well, no, that's literal snow. Let's see. Louis XIV rap. Okay.
Literal.
Yeah.
Not metaphorical snow.
Yeah, no. Yeah, possibly. We'll work on that. And I'm going to put on the Louis XIV rap while we wait for people. So we're gonna when I take a break, when I quit looking at this, let's see, we're about to take a little break. Probably resume instruction about 3:30 or so. Yes, let's see. Beautify Bernie. I'm going to do all that. Okay. Wow.
Is this still recording?
I'll be here probably till about 5 o'clock. Probably till about 5 o'clock. Yeah. So. Oh, did they see Monica's hat, the Cavalier hat? Yeah. Okay. Yes, Elizabeth, House of Lancaster, did turn to the Tudor family. Basically, Henry Tudor married into the Lancaster family. Okay, so keep that in mind. Henry VII, Henry Tudor married into that. All right, yeah, Megatick likes your hat. Okay, yeah, that basically this review I'm going to go through absolutism. So remember, follow me on Twitter, ask questions at Tom Richey. I got a lot of activity on Twitter, so that's awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to keep reviewing with the Reformation, and we will get started with that at 3:30. And for part of that interval, I'll go ahead and put on my wrap. You know, I don't know how good the sound's going to be, but let's see.
Every time you say the Lancaster man, I think you say
Lannister.
That sounds like Lannister.
Lannister always pays their debts.
Wait.
I tell you, I take.
No, we can. Did you write that? Good. That was pretty good. Oh, it was good. Yeah.
I'm thinking about doing some more over the summer. More water records like that. CEO more water records.
I get it. Don't the warm water though.
Yeah, you go like Hangout, something like that. Oh, it'll be available. Yeah. Timestamp it, and so that way, if you want to look at something in particular, you can click the link, go straight there. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's start getting back to business. All right. So some of y'all, if y'all were here, you might have heard my rap, even though I'm not a rapper. I tell you, we're gonna have like a super hot fire marathon after that exam's over. Like I think the next class period we'll just sit and we'll watch like all 6 of those episodes because we can once the exam's over. Yeah. Okay, I thought some of y'all still haven't seen Super Hot Fire, huh?
Yeah, we watched it last year.
Okay. All right, yeah. All right, good. Okay, so you weren't in here? All right, well, anyway, yeah, so let's get back to preparing for the AP government exam. Psych! That's the wrong exam! All right. Oh! All right, there we go. All right, there you go. Come on, do it again. All right, we're back. Yeah. One of these days I want to do like a rap battle between like a couple European kings or something like that. Yeah, we'll do something like that. No, not that. But yeah, here we go. All right. So anyway, yeah, it will be epic. It will be a rap battle. It'll be history, but it will not be an epic rap battle of history. All right. So anyway, let's go back, and I believe where we are now is we're going to look at a graphic organizer about the Reformation. All right, so hopefully our viewers know we're back, they're coming back, all of that kind of stuff. All right, so remember that the review guide is available on my website, tomrichey.net, which go to the Euro page. But we are talking about the Reformation. And keep in mind, live audience, y'all can come and go as you please. If you've got to leave at any point, go ahead. Also, online audience, if you can't be here live, then it's kind of like DVR or something like that. You can watch it live, but if you didn't get to it live, then this will be available on my channel once it's done, and I will try. I mean, you can kind of go through the video, get where you need to get, that sort of thing. So let's go back to what we were doing. Okay, live audience, y'all ready for this? All right. All right. Oh, 2 European languages. All right, 3 if we include English. All right. Yes.
You can go to your YouTube channel.
Yes. All right. Excellent. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, all right, so let's get back to what we were doing. So a Reformation graphic organizer, all right, let's go ahead and just kind of hit the main things about each of these religions, okay? So each of these sects of Christianity, Catholicism, which was the status quo. Now, one of the biggest, most important Catholic doctrines, Josh, could you bring me my iPhone charger, please? There should be a cable on my desk, one of those little white iPhone charger cables. All right, so one of the most important Catholic doctrines is the doctrine of free will. And that is a very contentious doctrine because, Erasmus and Thomas More and other Catholics, they are big into it. Keep in mind the Italian Renaissance was all about free will. But some of the reformers, Martin Luther and especially Calvin, are going to have some issues with this, okay? So keep that in mind. Whereas Catholicism emphasizes free will, then Calvinism is going to emphasize the sovereignty of God. And we're going to be talking about sovereignty, we talk about absolutism and stuff as well. But yeah, so we've got on one side free will. This is like the human will is free. Now, of course, you do have God's grace and that sort of thing. But Catholics believe that humans have the ability to make a choice whether to live their lives according to the dictates of the Christian religion or not. That salvation, eternal salvation, is a choice, whereas Calvinism does not teach that same thing. Let me get it to where you can see the whole thing at once. All right, so we've got that. Let me focus it one more time. All right. So sources of doctrine for the Catholic Church, you've got 3 sources of doctrine. The first is, of course, Scripture. Some people are under the misconception that Catholics don't, either believe the Bible or rely on it or anything like that. But Scripture is the most important foundation of Catholic doctrine. Keep in mind, where do Scriptures come from? They come from the Catholic Church, all right? Bless you. And then you've got 2 other sources of doctrine, all right? So the next is tradition, okay? So a Catholic is going to be of the opinion like, okay, well, Scripture. The thing is, how are we going to interpret Scripture? Well, we need to also look at how the Church has done things in the past, okay? So the Church is not very much into innovating doctrine, or at least not in the short term. I mean, if you look over the history of the Catholic Church, there have been some small changes here and there, but certainly not during the Reformation. But Scripture and tradition. And then you have the magisterium. Now, how do you say that? That is a Latin term meaning magister means teacher. So here you have the church's teaching authority, okay? So first of all, Scripture, okay? That's the rule book here. Then tradition, how has this thing been done in the past? And then finally, the teaching authority of the Pope and the bishops, all right? So Scripture, tradition, and the church's teaching authority. Then, if we look here, we have 7 of something. We've got baptism, baptism, Eucharist or communion, confirmation, penance or confession, anointing the sick, holy orders, and matrimony. These 7 things are known as the what, live audience? Yeah, one of you's got that. All right, sacraments. You all got to have to know that, okay? So, the Catholic Church maintains, even today, that there are 7 sacraments. Now, what is a sacrament? A sacrament is something that the church provides. You can't get it anywhere else, okay? So it's not just a matter of, this is something I go to church and, I'm going to youth group or something like that or, whatever. A sacrament is something that the church provides that is necessary for your salvation, and that it is something that is only provided by the church, okay? That the church is God's chosen instrument to communicate with the rest of everybody, okay? That's maybe a little bit of an oversimplification, but we're live right now. All right, so the sacraments are provided by the church. Keep in mind that sacrament is the same root word as sacred, okay? So only the church can hand these out. I don't know if John Maslin's still watching, but if he were, I'd try to get him on here to talk about the sacraments. He knows a lot about them. But really keep in mind that this is not an exam on Catholic theology. This is an exam about European history. So basically, as long as you understand that the Catholic Church emphasized free will and the existence of 7 sacraments that have to be provided by the church that you can't get anywhere else. Marriage, it's a sacrament, okay? You have to be married in the church. Baptism is a sacrament. You can't just get your brother to baptize you unless your brother is a priest with the authority to act, based on the church. So those things are what you really need to know about this, okay? So keep that. We've got this. All right, so let's go ahead and keep taking a look at this. And so when we go to England, we've got really 3 branches of reform, and that's very important. We look at the Reformation as very different movements, okay? You've got England, which is a conservative reform, okay? Conservative meaning that you're not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're keeping the basics of the church intact. Luther, who is engaging in moderate reform. And then finally, Calvinism, which is radical reform, okay? So you've got really 3 branches of Reformation. So if somebody says they're a Protestant, it really doesn't say a whole lot except that they're not Catholic. All right, so this conservative reform in England was started by Henry VIII, okay? So Henry VIII wrote a tract when Martin Luther started the Reformation and started talking about, sola scriptura, sola fide, all of this kind of stuff. Let's go ahead and actually start with Luther because Luther comes first and that establishes some context, okay? So, sola scriptura. This is only Scripture, okay? Sola means only, and then only Scripture. So, Scripture alone is a source of doctrine, and you can see here that if we look at the sources of Catholic Church tradition teaching, we see that Luther says only this is valid, this is not valid, and this is not valid. So therefore, the church is only can only get its doctrine from the Bible. Now then, Luther has his idea about salvation, okay, and so salvation, his idea about that is sola fide, okay, so only fide, which, fide, like the Marines say semper fi, semper fidelis, that means always faithful, okay? So when we talk about fide, like somebody might name their dog Fido, which means a faithful dog, okay? So sola fide means justification by faith alone. So only faith can save you. That the church, the Catholic Church, because they believe in free will. Catholics believe in free will. So you have this situation where if somebody has free will, and if someone's a Christian, doesn't it follow that they are going to do good works if they sincerely believe that they're Christians? It's not that their works are stacking up and counting for them, but what I do here is I kind of think about this, all right? When Catholics look at salvation, think about that you are in a hole, okay? You are in a hole and you can't get out of it, okay? It's like, I can't get out of here. So Jesus, his help is going to be needed, all right? The Catholic Church, you know, they know that a human being cannot get himself or herself into heaven through their good works. But since the Catholic Church believes in free will, it's like Jesus is standing there at the top of that hole, and he is, you know, let me see, I'm going to stand up here and kind of illustrate this a little more. You know, Jesus is reaching down to you, okay? And Jesus is holding out his hand and saying, look, if you could just do a couple of little things to let me know that you want to take my hand, okay? So Jesus wants you to reach up and take his hand, to actually make the effort. So without Jesus, salvation is impossible, but it must be a cooperative effort between the Savior and the saved, okay? So it is a team effort. It's that Jesus made it possible for me to go to heaven, and I can freely accept his lordship, and I can reach up through good works, even a minimal amount, really, reach up by not being a total, like, scoundrel and not, not disobeying Christian teaching, and I can show my sincerity, because since Catholics believe in free will, then if I want to do good things, then I can if I sincerely believe in Jesus. So that is one model for salvation. Now, Luther's model for salvation is that Jesus is here at the top of the hole, and you are here at the bottom of the hole, and you're like, hey, Jesus, Lord, like, I would like for you to save me. Justification by faith alone, okay? I would like for you to save me. And Jesus is like, okay, I'm going to reach in there, and I'm going to grab you up, okay? Because you had faith, all right? Because you had faith, and you wanted me to save you, okay? That's the idea of justification by faith. Now, the thing is, Luther, when Erasmus wrote about the freedom of the will, Erasmus wrote a tract about the freedom of the will, and Luther wrote a tract about the bondage of the will, okay, that the will is not totally free, that something remains of the sinful nature that keeps us from doing what it is that we want to do, even if we're a Christian. Like there's a part in the Bible where the Apostle Paul is writing about how I do what I do not want, and I don't do what I want to do, and sometimes I want to do something, and I do something else, and sometimes I did something else, but want to do that. It's a really confusing passage, but what you get out of here is that St. Paul would like to follow Jesus all the time, but he just, just feels like he's in bondage. And Luther had this saying, simul justus et peccator, or something like that, simultaneously saint and sinner, okay? So there's a guy, Caleb, that I taught one time. He's got that tattooed on himself. He wants to be a Lutheran minister. So he's got a good start there, I think. Simultaneously saint and sinner. So it's like, since my will is not totally free, since I'm always in bondage to the sinful nature, then I can't necessarily always exhibit my desire to be saved through good works, okay? So basically, I can say, Jesus, my will is in bondage, but really I have faith that you can save me, but I can't do anything. My hands are tied by this sinful nature. Then Jesus is like, okay, I'm going to reach in there, and I'm going to pull you out, okay? That's compared to the Catholic Jesus, who has his hand there, if you will at least reach up and grab it, okay? Jesus will go in there and get you, all right? So then you have Calvinism, okay? We're going to talk about Calvinism in a second, but let's go back to the graphic organizer before we do that, okay? Talk a little more about Lutheranism. All right, so basically justification by faith alone, okay? That is Lutheranism in a nutshell. What you need to know for the exam is that he believed in only Scripture as a source of doctrine and only faith as a source of salvation. Okay, justification is a fancy word for salvation. Okay, so when it comes to doctrine, Scripture, when it comes to faith, this. Now, the problem is, keep in mind that sola means only, and this also means only. Now, what happens if these two onlys come into conflict? All right, that can be a little bit of a, of a thing here. Let's see. Just need to respond to an important text message very quickly. All right. A friend of mine wanted to ride to work, and I was like, no, I can't do that. All right. So, yeah, I'm preparing people for AP exam. I don't have time for my side hustle today. So, yeah. So, anyway, let's see. So, what about when they come into conflict? Because think about this. Like, if you think about the Bible has things that can be read different ways. Okay, sometimes it has things that, while some people have found a way to synthesize them, at least outwardly they seem to say something different. Okay, so Luther says that for salvation, justification by faith alone. But you turn to the book of James, and the Apostle James, he says that faith without works is dead. That somebody that's not doing good works, that person's not a Christian. And so we see a conflict here between something that's in the Bible and something that Luther is saying is an integral part of his faith. So really, although Luther says this is sola scriptura, nobody is really sola scriptura, because you have these conflicts between between what you see somewhere and what you believe. So everyone reads the Bible through some sort of lens. So Luther's lens is this lens of justification by faith alone, and because of this lens, he tends to, well, the book of James says this. James said what? All right. Now, he prefers Paul to James, because Paul's big on justification through faith. Luther called the book of James an epistle of straw, okay, because it had an emphasis on works, okay? So keep in mind that Luther has to be creative, even though, like when he says sola scriptura, he creates a hierarchy. He says the book of James is really not as important as some of the other stuff in the Bible that agrees with what he says. So basically, the difference between Martin Luther and the Catholic Church is that the Catholic Church, like, admits that they have other sources of inspiration for doctrine, whereas Luther says, okay, it's only Scripture, but within the lens of sola fide. And Luther believed in the priesthood of all believers, okay? And as we've noted already, now that's basically saying that there are Lutheran ministers, but the role of the Lutheran minister is not as critical as the role of the Catholic priest, okay, who can absolve you from your sins and all of that stuff, who administers the sacraments. Luther believed that somebody can go just straight to God and be forgiven of their sins. You don't need the church. And so, therefore, Luther said that there were only like 2 or 3 sacraments, okay? So, that's only 2 or 3 sacraments, that there are not 7, all right? And that is very important for Henry VIII, who's about to come on the scene. Now, remember that Lutherans are very supportive, typically, of secular authorities. Okay, that is, historically, Lutheranism is about upholding secular authority, because in the earliest years of Lutheranism, they depended on secular authority, to protect them from higher secular authorities. Okay. So then enter Henry VIII. When Martin Luther starts his Reformation, Henry VIII writes a tract. Okay, Henry VIII was actually very well educated, and was actually being groomed to be the Archbishop of Canterbury, and then his older brother died, and be the king. I've got a head nodding there, so Haley knows a lot about the Tudors. All right. Excuse me. The defense of the 7 sacraments. Okay, so Henry VIII writes the defense of the 7 sacraments. All right, so he says that, like Martin Luther, there are not 2 or 3 sacraments, there are 7. So Henry's initial reaction, Henry the conservative, Henry the person who doesn't have a problem with Catholicism, he's saying, like, look, Martin Luther, like, you're just crazy person, all right? You don't know what you're talking about. And he just writes this really condescending tract. So when this verse starts, then he's like, okay, that's that. But keep in mind where Henry's coming from. Henry does not have a dispute with Catholic doctrine, okay? Henry is going to have a dispute with the church hierarchy, not with the doctrines of the church. And so when Henry needs to get a divorce from Catherine of Aragon, then Henry comes to conflict with the Pope because Catherine of Aragon, was from Spain, and Spain was allied with the Habsburgs. The Habsburgs were more powerful than Henry. And Henry's like, well, you know what? England's not going to be Catholic anymore. So really all this is at first is the Church of England is going to be a really almost like a secessionist church, okay, that basically there is still like this English church, all of the hierarchy is going to remain intact. Basically the Archbishop of Canterbury was the highest ranking church official in the Catholic Church. Well, we just cut England off from the rest of the church, and now the Archbishop of Canterbury is the most important, is the highest, like at least religious person authority. Of course, the other thing that Henry has here, in accordance with the new monarchs, is that the monarch is the titular head of the church. The Archbishop of Canterbury is the, basically the functional head of the church. All right, so keep that in mind. And so when Henry needs to get this divorce, he gets Parliament to pass the Act of Supremacy. Okay, so you see where Luther is more theologically motivated, then Henry VIII is more politically and economically motivated. That's been an FRQ question before on the AP Euro exam. So the Act of Supremacy. Now what this was passed by the by the English Parliament at the time, because it was just England and Wales. The Act of Supremacy said that the king is the head of the church. Okay, so the king is the head of the church. So basically there is no more relationship between the church in Rome and the Church of England. And one thing that Henry does is he abolishes monasteries. And monasteries, keep in mind that you're like, what did those little monks do? They're just praying or whatever they're doing. Well, the thing is he abolishes these monasteries because monasteries also included the land around the monastery. Okay, so it's like, you've got the monastery, but then you've got all of this land that's around it. Also inside the monastery, you've got a lot of riches and stuff like that. So Henry, the church was the largest landowner in England. So Henry abolishes these monasteries and nationalizes them, basically takes that wealth in and makes it his own. Okay, so now the monasteries are going to be the property of the king. And another thing that's going to happen because of that is you're going to see the expansion of the English middle class, because Henry is going to take this land, and to get money, he's going to sell it. And he's going to sell it on the cheap because he's got this land that he got for free and he wants to get rid of it, wants to raise money. And so land ownership in England gets more spread out, that you have, whereas in France, a lot of the land was owned by these nobles in the countryside. The English had a very healthy gentry, a class of gentlemen who were not nobles, but they were landowners. So rural landowners are very powerful in England, in a way that they're not going to be in other places, because in another place on the continent, the nobles hold all of the land, out in the, out in the sticks. So that's that. Now let's go back to what we've got here. So Henry, keep in mind he's politically motivated and also economically motivated. The Pilgrimage of Grace, this was a resistance movement. Okay, so it was a protest march. Okay, so these people marched. Some of them were armed, not that they were necessarily like committing violent acts against anybody, but this was a protest march, and this was against Henry's closure of the monasteries. There was a lot of resistance to Henry's takeover of the church. So now Thomas Cranmer is another person you might want to know. He was the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now the reason of the Canterbury Tales is because that is the shrine of Thomas à Becket, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury, who, Thomas Cranmer now becomes the functional head of the church. And Thomas Cranmer wrote the Book of Common Prayer. And this is still the service book in Anglican and in the United States Episcopal churches, this Book of Common Prayer. So keep in mind that he is the one that's really kind of giving, like, the Church of England a bit of a Protestant identity, whereas Henry was just mostly concerned about political power. And then Henry's got 3 kids. Now notice Edward VI was his son by his 3rd wife, Jane Seymour. Edward only reigned for a short time, okay, so basically a short reign. But under Edward's reign, England became more firmly Protestant, okay, so while he was reigning, he was allowing Protestantism to continue to grow in England. Then there is Mary, who was Bloody Mary, because you had about 300 people burned at the stake. You know, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's still, you know, I mean, you know, burning witches, that sort of thing. Okay, so lots of witches burning, and, you know, heretics, not witches necessarily, I'm sorry, heretics. Like, she would burn Protestant, barbecue Protestant, including Thomas Cranmer. She had him executed. Now, that's a very interesting story that I'm not going to tell in the review, but there's Mary the First, Bloody Mary, who brought England back to Catholicism. So that is also a short reign, only 5 years, okay? So she decided to bring England back to Catholicism. Still, you see this principle of whoever reigns his or her religion. And then there is Elizabeth I, who reigns for a long time and brings England back to Protestantism. So although Henry encountered some resistance in the Pilgrimage of Grace initially, as you can see here, Edward continues the road to Protestantism. Also, Mary's repression of Protestantism turned a lot of people off. So, you know, that basically increased the level of enmity between Protestants and Catholics. And then Elizabeth takes over, and during her long reign, consolidates Protestantism. All right, so finally, we've got this branch of the Reformation, Calvinism, which we've gone over the moderate reform, the conservative reform, and now we're going to go to the radical reform. Now, Calvinism is based on the sovereignty of God, and this is based on the doctrine of predestination. All right, so how does this work? Okay, so sovereignty, it is a concept, and sovereignty is a very important concept for the AP Euro exam, because whether it has to do with the sovereignty of God in religion or the sovereignty of a monarch, this is important, because when we get to absolutism, then we're going to have a situation where, okay, the monarch is sovereign. The monarch is not dependent on anyone else, not dependent on the nobility, on the church, on a representative body, or anything like that. All right, so predestination. If God is sovereign, then he must be in control of everything. Now, John Calvin was a lawyer, okay? I mean, he had trained as a lawyer. The thing about Calvin, if you read his Institutes of the Christian Religion, that's on your thing there, that's his famous book. Calvin's doctrines, you can disagree with Calvin. Like, you can disagree with, like, the whole thing, like his whole premise. That is, again, basically anti-free will and of humans having any agency in their salvation at all. But once he gets started, this is a system of theology. This is not just like, let's take Catholicism and modify it a little bit, let's reform it. This is, let's start at the very beginning with this doctrine of the sovereignty of God, okay? And let's apply logic. Let's apply lawyerly logic to this. And so if God is sovereign, then you can't have any say over your salvation. So predestination teaches that basically, okay, God has gone through and he's been like, you, heaven, hell, heaven, hell, heaven, hell. This is before you were even born, that this has been decided, that he has his elect, okay? The elect are the people that God has chosen to join him in heaven, and if you are not one of the elect, it sucks to be you, okay? Because there's really nothing you can do, all right? So TULIP. Let's take a look at TULIP, all right? This is how Calvinist doctrine is often explained. TULIP, first of all, there is total depravity. You have absolutely zero ability to save yourself, okay? That you have no goodness, internal goodness in you apart from God's grace. So what you have here is in Catholicism, you've got faith and works. Here you have faith, and here you have a reliance on simply God's grace. There is nothing you can do. It is all God, okay? Unconditional election means that if you have been selected as one of the elect, that there is nothing you can do to get out of that, all right? Then, let's see, you were totally depraved, unconditional election. Let's see, I am just missing one. One's kind of failing me here. Tell you what, get me rambling long enough and I start to forget things. All right, so Calvinism. Let's see, the 5 points of Calvinism. All right, total depravity, here we go. Limited atonement, okay, so that is the idea that when Jesus atoned for people's sins, that Jesus was only atoning for the sins of the elect, all right? So only for the sins of the elect, unconditional election, and the atonement did not apply to everyone. Now, Catholics would say that the atonement is at least in intention universal, like that Jesus wanted everyone to accept his salvation, whereas Calvinism teaches that the atonement is limited. Now, if you have been chosen, you can't say no, okay? So irresistible grace. Think about, like, of course, most of you probably aren't familiar with the Borg and Star Trek resistance is futile, that if you have been chosen, you have no power to get rid of that, okay? And then finally, perseverance of the saints. This is saying that once God's made his decision, that he will never go back on that there's nothing you can do to change his mind. So his book, Institutes of the Christian Religion. Now, the thing is, here is, if we go back to our analogy, like that you are in the hole of sin, okay, that Jesus is up there. Basically, remember, the Catholics, Jesus is reaching his hand out, ready to do the rest, if you'll take the first step, all right? Now, Luther's Jesus is like, hey, as long as you ask him, he'll jump in there and he'll get you out of it. He'll put, a ladder or a rope down for you or something like that. Now, Calvin, you're pretty much irrelevant, okay? You could be like, at the bottom of that, chasm, and you could be like, hey, let's go, snort some coke and rob a bank and run over some little kids, or something like that. And there's nothing. Like, Jesus is just basically walking by there, and he's like, that person's my elect or that person's not. Nothing you can do to change his mind. There could be some good people, some really good people that Jesus is like, they're not one of the elect, all right? I didn't elect them. So basically, like, it doesn't matter what you're saying or what you're doing. Jesus has decided who he will save and who he has not. Even if you're down there at the bottom of that hole, you're like, no. Jesus is like, yes. And, yeah, you can tell that I've got a 4-year-old. All right, so anyway, that is Calvinism, that you have absolutely no choice. So you've got 3 ways of looking at the human will. You have Luther, you have the Catholic Church that emphasizes the freedom of the will, that Luther, like, you know what, I can have faith. I've got enough free will to have faith, even if my works aren't always going to be consistent with that faith. And then you've got Calvinism, which takes free will out of the equation. So that is radical. Calvinism puts the greatest amount of distance between their doctrines and Catholic doctrines. All right, so Calvinists in England. Let's talk about, like, Calvinists in various places. Okay, Calvinists in England were known as Puritans and Separatists. In Scotland, known as Presbyterians. led by John Knox. You may need to know something about John Knox, who was a leader of Scottish Presbyterians. In France, they were called Huguenots. All right, so we've got Puritan separatists, Presbyterians, led by John Knox, sorry, and then in France, the Huguenots. Okay, John Locke we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, so let's see. That gets us through the Reformation doctrines and leaves us with the religious wars. Now, I've got a video on the French Wars of Religion. Let me go ahead and let's see. Let's share the screen with you just so we can just take one more look at the playlist. I don't know if people have joined us recently, so let's just make sure that people know what's available. That if we get on YouTube and you go to my AP Euro playlist, we've got Calls to the Reformation, Martin Luther's Reformation, Transubstantiation, Catholic Counter-Reformation, and then the French Wars of Religion is there as well. Okay, and as you can see, I've got several videos in the next unit as well. So let's see about that. You know what? I'm going to take a little break personally, and I'm going to just play my video on the French Wars of Religion. You know, or you can play it or something like that. I'm not sure if the how well the sound's going to pick up on this. Okay, let's see. My YouTube permissions have expired. I need to go in there and go in there one more time. Do we have any questions from the live audience? Okay. We seen anything on Twitter, Josh? There's what? Okay, we hadn't seen any activity on Twitter lately. Let's see. All right, so we've got, let's see, I've got this. Let's see, Tom, Richey, AP Euro playlist. How far are we going? Okay, so I am going to finish the Reformation. I'm planning to go on and keep on doing, is anybody going to hang around for absolutism if I keep going with that? I mean, if you're here, like in the online audience is here, you know, I'll, you know, where two or three are gathered, there I am with them while we're talking about Jesus and, you know, religion, that sort of thing. All right, so let's just take a look at the video on the French Wars of Religion. Let's see, so if I go to my playlist, let's see. Okay, 29 videos here ranging from, you know, the Italian Renaissance to totalitarianism. Now, that's a rough cut, but I put it on the playlist so that it's there. But, you know, lots of stuff on these early units especially. So I'm going to go ahead, and this video on the French Wars of Religion is about 8 minutes long. Now, of course, when you watch these videos, watch the ads and that sort of thing. Now, wait, what's going on here? This ad's not wanting to play. All right, well, never mind. That video is there, so keep in mind that that video is there. Okay, that's really what's important for you, is that you know that the video is there. Okay, we're at French Wars of Religion. All right. Let's see, still not working. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look again at the. I tell you what, I'm going to take a little break. My brain's getting a little bit tired. So we are going to resume at 4:15. Okay, we're going to resume at 4:15, and I will go ahead and start looking at some of that stuff on the internet. Tweet at me at Tom Richey. You know, that would be great to hear from you. But I'm going to take a little break, and then I'll be back to talk about the wars of religion. And I've got a few folks that are heading out. All right, thank y'all for coming. All right, let's see. All right, you too, Sam. All right, let's see. All right, imperfect Mark. Thanks for the tweet. Awesome. Um, you don't want to pull up the stream on there now, because that's gonna like mess things. Like we're gonna hear it and stuff. But yeah, let me check on that stuff. Yeah, actually, Josh will see all three like that closer to me now. Yeah, start back. More night. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, they were just basic. Oh,
Hello. Hey. I'm at the APO. Yeah. I guess you guys. Yeah, I don't have a, yeah. I'll just say that he, yeah. I'll text. Okay. Yeah, I'll No, I'm not, but I'm gonna do it. Probably somehow. We're going to
Oh, okay, yeah, let's take a look at those. Okay, so I'm back. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these questions coming up, see if I can answer anything. Hopefully a 5. Let's see. I go earlier. Okay, so let's see. Live event. Oh, wait, here we go. Live event. Here, what do you see, Jay? Can I look at your thing over there and see if I can answer some of these questions? Oh, okay. All right, John's being a real downer. Okay, whoa, Ray, okay. Huh? Okay, gotcha. Let's see. Europe is a bean dip? Okay, wow, this is quite a pray to Shrek. Okay, so that's where Shrek came from. Okay, there we go. Yes, Jessica, you can definitely take a moment to thank me. I think that's awesome. Yeah, so that's fine with me. Okay, so we see this. Watch the video. It's helpful. All right. Somebody dropped their cereal? That sucks. Okay. So let's see what we've got here. All right. Please, okay, Malcolm, Tom, respond to this comment, please, Tom, please. All right. Yes, so Malcolm, I'm guessing I'm responding to your comment. Was there something else I was supposed to look at? Whoa, check yourself before you Shrek yourself. All right, let's try to keep it G-rated, frown-free zone. Wow, this, yeah, I guess this is what happens when you got YouTube going on, a bunch of high school people. Yeah. All right, this is, yeah, it's kind of like a thing, yeah, so let's see. Okay, gotcha. Oh, Mark Raymond, let's see, is this Mark Raymond, the teacher, Mark Raymond? I'm wondering, huh? Okay, let's, okay, DBQ time limit, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I just did a Q&A on DBQ and all that kind of stuff. So let's see. So yeah, I think Mark Raymond's. I think that's the teacher. I know he's trying to mess with me. How's the meaning of life changed from century to century? All right. So anyway, we got 61 watching now. Okay, we got 44 likes on this thing. That's awesome. Okay, so I see a few things. You're welcome, Andrea. What time is this ending? I don't really have a. I don't really have an end time on this. Free zone. You are forgiven. Okay, Mark Raymond, why aren't you why aren't you joining this thing? Let's see if we can. I mean, keep in mind if we could get Mr. Cubbage in on this sometime, that would be awesome. So let's see what we got there. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and kind of continue. I'm glad that we got to. Let's see, like a schedule on the rest of the fall. Okay, yes, Daniel, I will put out a schedule. What I'm thinking about right now is that tomorrow evening at about 7, I'll be back. Maybe I'll do something before then. I'm definitely going to do the morning of, but yeah, we'll see how that happens. All right, am I losing my life? Okay, I've got 2 more. Okay, so you're leaving soon too. Okay, well, let me go ahead and finish Religious Wars and stuff, and I might go ahead and do that absolutism stuff a little later this evening. That might be what I do to do that. So let's go ahead and talk about Religious Wars. You still there, Elizabeth? All right, hopefully she's still there because we're going to get to the 30 Years' War. Of course, you can watch this later as well if the Dodger game's on or something like that. Okay, so yes, awesome. Okay, yes, exactly. She's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing, watching the AP Euro review and the Dodger game. Okay, are the Dodgers winning, Elizabeth? What's the score? I think they're playing the Giants in this series right now, but go ahead and get me that information ASAP so that I don't have to look it up myself. And I can get back to the business of doing the review. But yeah, that's the most awesome comment ever. A subreddit, that'd be pretty awesome. Like I don't know anything about Reddit. I know Reddit is pretty cool. Yeah, okay, a lot. Okay, if somebody showed me how to do it, I'd love to be on Reddit. Like Reddit's like where all the cool people are, right? No, okay. Oh. Tumblr is where the cool people are. Okay, sorry. All right, so getting on task here, let's go ahead and talk about the wars of religion. Okay, so we're going to work on that. Yeah, Wolfgang is quite a character over there. All right, so let's see. So we've got this, and we are going to share the graphic organizer again. Okay, so where is my presenter? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the Wars of Religion. Now, I've got a video on the French Wars of Religion, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. So basically, keep in mind that the Wars of Religion, we're talking about the Catholics versus the French Calvinists, okay? And the French Calvinists are Huguenots, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? Now, this is Catherine de' Medici. Okay, Catherine de' Medici. I know that's just all chicken scratch, but think Medici came from the Medici family, married into the French family. She was the Queen of France, okay, and basically ruled kind of through her sons, never officially ruling, but manipulating her sons, okay? So Catherine de' Medici was Catholic, all right? So you have the Catholics versus the Huguenots. Now, this is based on this little painting here that I've got a little picture of. One of the most the biggest really headline here in the French Wars of Religion was the Saint Bartholomew's Day massacre. And this is where like 20,000 French Huguenots were killed, very unexpectedly, just massed up, mass killings. I think it's had something to do with a wedding or something like that too. I think that one of the scenarios in Game of Thrones is, kind of based on this from what people have said to me. All right, so basically you got the Catholics versus the Huguenots. I've got more details in my video. Henry of Navarre, all right? Henry of Navarre was a powerful Huguenot leader. And he ends up winning the French Wars of Religion, and he begins the Bourbon dynasty. Now, before that, they had been ruled by the Valois dynasty, if you see anything about that. I don't run into that much, but that was previously the Valois, so they're gone. And the Bourbon dynasty is going to take over. Now, Henry of Navarre was a Huguenot. Now, the Huguenots were a minority in France, so what's going to happen here? Well, Henry converts, okay? Henry was a politique, or as it looks like politicue or something like that. Keep in mind you're taking a written test. But Henry, it's like, wait, dude, like you became king of France and now you're going to convert. People have been killing each other over religion, and you're just going to convert to another religion? What's up with that? And, Henry's like, yes, exactly. People have been killing each other over religion, and that needs to stop. That is a problem. He famously said, Paris is worth a mass, okay? That if I am going to be able to be the king of France, then I am willing to convert, all right? Because France is a Catholic country. So he is going to personally convert And the whole idea of politique is where you base things on political concerns, not religious concerns. Now, here is another, kind of link to Bismarck's concept of realpolitik. Let's not conduct our policies based on what is ideologically sound, but what is going to result in the most power for Germany. In this case, France. What is going to make France a better country? What is going to lead to peace? And so Henry of Navarre goes ahead and converts. All right, so he says Paris is worth a mass. Now, personally, he converts, but then he issues the Edict of Nantes, okay, or the Edict of Nantes, or however you want to say it in France. All right, so you've got this, the Edict of Nantes, which Henry says that there is going to be limited toleration. Now, keep in mind, it's only certain places and cities, but there is going to be some toleration for Huguenots. Now, it is later going to be rescinded by Henry's grandson, Louis XIV. All right, so that's that. So we've got, basically Henry and his Huguenot faction, they win the French Wars of Religion. But he goes ahead and says, look, there's going to be some limited toleration for Huguenots. And that's how that is, how that happens. All right, so then the 30 Years' War. Okay, let's see if Elizabeth can tell us the Dodger score. I don't know if she's commented lately. Top of the first, no score. Okay, awesome. Okay, so she's still here. And let's see. Hopefully the other team isn't doing that well. All right. So anyway, yeah, St. Bart's Day, Matt. Thank y'all for helping each other on this chat stream. That's awesome to see that y'all are talking here. That is great. Okay, so people are helping. Alana, you are doing a great job here. Total rock star in the comments. All right, so the Wars of Religion in result. Let's see, Jessica. So the Wars of Religion is in result of the Reformation. All that craziness having to do with religion. Sure, there are probably more sophisticated ways to make that point, but yeah, basically, I mean, there is a lot of craziness going on with the religion, and that is symptomatic with that. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the 30 Years' War. Now, I've already given part of it away. Okay, it starts in 1618, and so if you add 30 to that, it must go to, Josh, 1648. Okay, 1648, 1618 to 1648. It is named that because it was 30 years, all right? And the primary battleground was the Holy Roman Empire, okay, which was basically just a whole bunch of principalities and that sort of thing. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about 4 phases, okay? So you've got 4 phases. You have the Bohemian phase, and then you have the Danish phase, and then you have the Swedish phase, and then finally the French phase. Now, I had some students a few years ago that they came up with a very clever way to remember the 4 phases, and basically I'm not going to repeat what it is that they wrote, but you can use your imagination. There are words that become progressively more powerful as you go down the line. So each of these is getting more serious, okay? But anyway, there are 4 phases, and those phases are the Bohemian phase, the Danish phase, the Swedish phase, and finally the French phase, okay? So Bohemian, Danish, Swedish, and French. Josh? Oh, yes.
There's also that question that said you not establish a state in a state.
Okay, so Mike, a state within a state, or imperium in imperio, or whatever, this is the idea that what it did, and this goes into, I'm just going to back up real quick and hit that question. What it did was that it created, like, these Huguenots are still, they're in France, but they're not really in France. They're not of the state. So when Louis comes to power, Louis realizes, keep in mind, he's all about one king, one law, one faith. And so Louis decides, like, hey, I am going to, make it so everybody's the same religion, because these Huguenots, they're not part of the nation, okay? So this is something that really begins with absolutism and is culminated by the French Revolution, the idea of France turning from a nation within a nation with Huguenots, Catholics, with nobles, clergy, and everyone else, to becoming a French nation. Okay, so that is the whole idea of a state within a state, or imperium in imperio, if you want to get the fancy Latin version, is that you have these people who are not really part of the nation at large. Okay, so I got that question. Let's go back to the 30 Years' War. So what you need to know about the 30 Years' War is it starts in the Holy Roman Empire, and the Bohemian phase and the Danish phase, this starts from a local religious conflict, and it grows into a continent-wide political conflict. All right, so starts as local and religious and grows to be a continent-wide political conflict. So, you know, as it goes, as it keeps going from 1618 to 1648, it is going to become bigger, because you see Bohemian phase is within the Holy Roman Empire. The Danish phase is like right there outside of the Holy Roman Empire, Denmark, and then Sweden is further out, and the French, you know, are also from outside of there. So what happens here is essentially you have Catholics versus Protestants, okay, local religious, Catholics versus Protestants. And eventually what happens here is that Sweden gets involved, okay? Now the Swedish phase, the Swedes were, you know, were Protestants, they were Lutheran, and then they are led by Gustavus Adolphus. Okay, this guy is very, very important, okay, because he is a military leader. And then the French are led by Cardinal Richelieu. Now, these two things are connected here. We're going to connect these religious wars together in a second. Cardinal Richelieu is a politique, okay? So is a politique, which meaning that even though he is a cardinal in the Catholic Church, he places political concerns ahead of religious concerns. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some maps. Let me go over to Wikipedia for the 30 Years' War. Okay, the 30 Years' War, and let me see what kind of maps and stuff that I can bring up for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. All right, the 30 Years' War, series of wars principally fought in Central Europe. Okay, now notice these Habsburgs are showing up. Okay, so Habsburg supremacy curtailed. Okay, so this becomes more political. Now, so we start off local and religious. There was a guy in Bohemia, modern-day Czech Republic, that some Protestants threw this Catholic messenger out of a window. This is called the Defenestration of Prague. So you've got a revolt in the Holy Roman Empire, and then it gets bigger. Okay, now here is Gustavus Adolphus. That's a pretty cool painting. That is Gustavus Adolphus, who was one of the greatest military leaders of the day, one of the first people to experiment with mobile artillery on the battlefield. So Gustavus Adolphus, basically what's going on in these first two phases, the Catholics are winning. Okay, so let me just go back over here and share this, you know, share our review sheet with you real quick. The Catholics are winning in the first two phases. You need to know that. And then the Swedes get involved. Okay, so here the Catholics win. Okay, both of these phases. And then you've got Gustavus Adolphus, and so here is where you have foreign intervention. But you need to really look at a map here of Europe at the time. Let's see if I can find a good map here. Let's see, map of the 30 Years' War. Let me take a quick look at that, what this map has on it. All right, here we go. Yeah, this is a good one. All right, so basically what you've got here for a good part of the war, so you can look at Europe at this time, that in pink are the countries with a Protestant majority. So when you look at Northern Europe, you're going to see that these countries have Protestant majorities. Then you have these in orange and yellow are Habsburg lands. Okay, so the Habsburgs control a lot of land in Europe. They control Austria. They kind of indirectly control the Holy Roman Empire. They control Spain. They control by that southern Italy. They control the Netherlands and various other things there. And so what happens here is you've got this war between Catholics and Protestants, and the Swedes are getting involved in order to help the Protestants in northern Germany. And so here's a battle here. Now let's think about this. If Cardinal Richelieu is thinking in terms of, if Cardinal Richelieu's in France and he's thinking in terms of what's best for the Catholic Church, then he is going to be prone to, side with the Catholics. But that's not what he's thinking, okay? What he's thinking is that France, the nation of France, is caught between the Habsburgs. So you've got Habsburg here, Habsburg dominated Holy Roman Empire, and Habsburg dominated Spain. So Richelieu is thinking politically, and he's thinking about the best interest of France instead of the best interest of the Catholic religion. And Richelieu decides that what we're going to do is we're going to help the Protestants, all right? So France is the crossover in the 30 Years' War, that France says we are going to give money to Gustavus Adolphus. We are going to help this guy not because he's Protestant. We're not a Protestant country, but because he is fighting the Habsburgs, we want to help this guy. So what's happening here is that the conflict, once France is helping the Swedes, then religion is not the only thing anymore. And of course, religion, people can kill each other over that all day. Now, political things, we don't like to fight over as much. So as it gets more continent-wide, more political, you start to see at least we can come to some kind of settlement because we realize this is not just a local religious war. The difference between the Swedish phase and the French phase, okay, so keep in mind we've gone through here, and we see here that the Bohemians have rebelled, then they go, the Danes try to come in. So the Swedish come in, and they have French assistance, okay? Now, they get that until Gustavus Adolphus dies, okay? So until Gustavus Adolphus dies, the Swedes he's killed in battle, he wins a victory, and then he's killed. And so once Gustavus Adolphus is killed, then the Swedes kind of pull out. Now, they stay involved, but the French phase is about a direct French military intervention, okay? So that's what makes it French, is that it is a direct French military intervention. And whereas here, it's French financial assistance, all right? So basically, you have between the Swedish phase and the French phase, you have, one assisting the other, all right? So that's what's important to note there. The 30 Years' War is ended by the Treaty of Westphalia, or the Peace of Westphalia, which is signed in 1648, which, ends 30 years of, kind of pretty much constant war, but, ends this series of conflicts, okay? So what happens here is that a couple of things that you need to understand, okay? That basically the Holy Roman Empire is going to lose power, okay? So you've got the Holy Roman Empire, which is going to become less powerful and more decentralized, okay? So the Holy Roman Empire, its importance is going to go down. The power of the Holy Roman Empire, emperor, is going to go down. So this becomes more decentralized, okay? And then you see that France gets a bump, okay? That France is about ready for the age of Louis XIV, okay, that France benefits here, all right? And then we see that, the losers here are the Catholic Church, okay, because that is, one less way that the church can, basically you're not going to see another, big, religious war, Christians versus Christians, that involve several countries. Okay, so that is the end of religious wars. All right. So keep that in mind that, you see the Holy Roman Empire is decentralizing, the Catholic Church is declining, France is on the upswing. All right, so I've got the religious wars done. Now, I may be back a little later this evening to talk about some other stuff or tomorrow. Now, the thing is, I'd like to publicize these things in a little more timely manner, but sometimes it's just tough to kind of see when that's going to happen. But keep in mind, even if you can't make it to these review sessions live, you can still watch them later. So even if you're like, whoa, he's already broadcasting, I missed something, these will post to my channel as soon as they're over. So let me go ahead and see if, all right, Wilhelm, nice of you to join us from the other side of the Atlantic, from the area that was affected by the 30 Years' War. College board makes our life crap. Well, not if you pass the exam, Ashkar, because once you pass that exam, your college life's going to get better. What I tell my students is, remember that guy over there, he's having a lot of fun in college. If you pass your AP exams, you can have a lot of fun in college too, while somebody else is taking Western Civ too. So let's see if I can go ahead and see what's going on. What was the story behind Gustavus Adolphus? Basically, he's the king of Sweden, and he saw himself as the defender of Protestantism. I'm doing a little Q&A now. I have lost my entire live audience. They're like, Richie, that's it. This was till 4 o'clock. Some of them stayed a little later, but I have lost my live audience. So that's that. Now, I'm going to do a little Q&A. So Gustavus Adolphus was the king of Sweden. He was Protestant. And he is, he sees this war going on, and the Catholics are beating the Protestants, and he's like, well, I'm going to come in, and I'm going to intervene. And so, he expands this war outside of the Holy Roman Empire. Let's see if we've got any other questions come in. I know I'm in a little bit of lag. Let's see, where are we? Gustavus Adolphus, Nalani says, okay. So, all right, some of you folks are from the same class. Oh, wow, yeah. All historians are conspiring to do false stuff, like tell people falsehoods, because I didn't live there. All right, interesting. All right, so let's see if any other questions come in. It's going to be a minute or two probably until everything catches up. So I'm gonna hang around here just for a little bit for some Q&A before I wrap up. And like I said, possible that I can get on later tonight and talk about the absolutists. But keep in mind, my review guides go through the French Revolution and Napoleon, and then they pick back up in the late 19th century. So even if I'm not back, then you can still get on those review guides. Let's see, am I even getting? Let's see if I've still got my YouTube permissions. That could be a factor. Okay, so we do have our YouTube permissions. Let's see. The conversation. Okay. All right, Lee, Wikipedia. Okay, it's one of those things. Just go ahead and just Google that, and you're good. Okay. Did each phase actually take place in the place it's named for? Not necessarily. Okay, so the Bohemian phase is named because Bohemia, you had a revolt there. So in that case, that's where it happened. The Danish phase, there was, that's the one I'm kind of a little bit shaky on, but you've got the Danes that interfere, and there is some battling there, okay, between the Holy Roman Empire and the Danes. The Swedes, keep in mind that the Swedes are getting involved at this phase, but it's not happening in Sweden. Gustavus Adolphus is bringing his army into the Holy Roman Empire. And so that phase is named after the dominant participant. Now, France, these battles aren't going on in France. They're going on in the Holy Roman Empire. So each phase is really named for really the dominant place or the dominant power who is fighting. Okay, so really Bohemian because it's there, Danish because they're getting involved, and then the Swedish and the French because they're the the side that is fighting against the Habsburgs. So that's that. All right, let's see. Let me see if I can check on Twitter here. Why did Louis XIV revoke the Edict of Nantes? Okay, now the thing is, there are several things. First of all, Louis XIV. Oh wow. Okay, so we got a few coming in here. Let's see. Let me. All right. So Jackie, what happened here is Louis XIV. First of all, you need to keep in mind that Louis XIV was a devout Catholic. All right, that he believed in the truth of the Catholic religion. And if you look at the divine right of kings, then you see that like the king gets his authority from God, and therefore, if the king gets his authority from God, and the king has to face the judgment later on. So Louis XIV, as a sincere Catholic, is thinking, if I allow my people to practice a false religion, then what does that do to me at the judgment? I know that sounds silly, but that's something that they took very seriously, that Louis XIV did not want to go to hell. And the kind of ruler that he was, in the eyes of God, was going to matter. So keep that in mind, that he really did have sincere religious reasons for that. But also this whole idea, like I was talking about earlier, of a nation within a nation, that Louis wanted to create a French nation that was one king, one law, one faith. All right, so since he wants to do this, having two faiths, that doesn't work. Okay, that doesn't create that French nation, and it doesn't consolidate everyone under this nation of France. It allows privileged groups to exist, because that's another thing, that basically the way this Edict of Nantes was written out is that the Huguenots could have a privilege of observing their minority religion. And Louis is about getting rid of privilege. So, not only is it the divine right of kings and his religious belief, because one thing he does say in the Edict of Fontainebleau, which is what, and I've got a video on Louis XIV. Any Louis XIV questions are probably going to be answered if you look at my video. It's one of my most popular videos. I think it's got about 10,000 views. In fact, if you put Louis XIV into YouTube, like I'm about to do right now, let's check that out and see what happens there. All right, so let's go ahead and look at that. If I put in Louis XIV, there's my video. Second, first, or yeah, there's the ads. But first, the documentary. Second is my video. Not quite to 10,000, but y'all can help me get there. All right, so that's almost 9,000 views. But that is my lecture on Louis XIV. I ramble on for about 15 minutes on Louis XIV. Okay, or actually 14 minutes. That'd be more appropriate, wouldn't it? All right, so keep that in mind. That's there, so that is a potential resource for you. So that's basically why Louis XIV did that. All right, population changes throughout history. All right, so Tori, one thing that you want to note is the population explosion in the 18th century, around the time of the Enlightenment. Big time population explosion, which is part of the agricultural revolution. So Tori, I would recommend that you take a look at my AP European History playlist. I'll go ahead and show you what I've got there from that era. And that's something, y'all can do, because I've got videos that go beyond what's here. And so let's go ahead and take a look at this. We've got, in the next unit, I've got a video on foundations of absolutism, where I talk about the principles of absolutism. Then Louis XIV, and then Prussian absolutism, where I talk about the Fredericks and all those folks. The Great Northern War, Snowpocalypse. I'm just playing with my daughter. This is actually one of my favorites. I'll just give you a preview. I just discovered Toby Turner's lazy blog when I did this, and it snowed, and I was like, well, let me get out there and. Let's see if my permission's expired. Okay, still able to get on YouTube. It's just being stupid. Let's see. So, all right. But anyway, if you want to see that video, it'll probably work better on yours than mine. But I'm just kind of like, holding my camera, and then I'm out there with my daughter who's throwing snowballs at me. And meanwhile, I'm teaching you a little bit about the, about the Great Northern War. But for some reason, it's just not wanting to. Wow, that's a flattering screenshot. All right, and then I've got absolutism versus constitutionalism, where I go into those things. And then I've got two of my most popular videos, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. That's actually the most popular video I've ever done, comparing those two philosophers. And then what does Thomas Hobbes say? What does Hobbes say is that's you know, people like it, that sort of thing. And then it goes on. I've got a lot of stuff on the French Revolution, that sort of thing, Romanticism and Romantic art. So all of that's there. Keep in mind the resources that are already here for you on YouTube. So let me go ahead and see what I've got as far as some other questions. I want to see while I'm here answering your questions. Let's see. So, oh, right, Tori, the one I wanted to bring your attention to. I don't know if I saw it just now on the thing that there is a video about the the British agricultural revolution. Is that? Whoa, I don't have that one on the playlist. Let's see, AP European History review videos. Let's see, am I sharing my screen with you? No, I'm not. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you this. Let's see. So, all right. So AP European History. Let's see. No, I don't have that on there. Okay, so British Agricultural Revolution. All right. So if you look there, I've got this is the second one, and I'm glad that I've noticed that that is not on the playlist, because I'm going to go ahead and add that to AP European History review videos. Let's see. So we've got that, and I need to go ahead and just get that in order now. So let's just go back to the playlist. Okay, and I think that brings us to 30 videos total. Okay, so for some reason this wasn't on there, and it is now. So that's one thing, Tori, that goes into the the population explosion of the 18th century and the factors that are causing that. So that's going to give you some additional context. So I would recommend taking a look at that. And so I've got that video there. That's great. So you know, definitely a you know, thumbs up to my new friend Tori. Okay, so I've got that on there now. Elizabeth, you're welcome. Yeah, go Dodgers. Let's see. So 30 Years War, awesome. So let's see the. All right, the Battle of Lutzen, very good. Okay, later tonight, around what time? Not sure. Okay, so how will we know when you are doing a live review if it is spontaneous? All right, so Alex, the way to do that would be, yes, Cookie, you got it. All right, so Twitter. All right, there are two ways that I'm, you know, announcing these things. Now, first of all, if you subscribe to my channel, you might get some sort of notification. But the other thing is, you definitely want to, you know, if you want to get the you know, the best time things. Now you can set up Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, and between now and the exam, if you want to set it up to where you get a notification when I tweet, like to where you don't have to even check Twitter, you can set it up for that. You can say, you know, I'm going to go into Twitter and I'm going to turn on a notification. So when Richey tweets, I want to know. So if it's like, hey, I'm about to get on right now and I'm going to do this, and if you're late, then you can watch it later. I mean, it's like you don't have to watch it when it's live. That's the beauty of these things, that it's just like, you know, with TV and a DVR and all of that kind of stuff. So Twitter and Instagram, I'm Tom Richey on both of those things. TOMRICHEY, just my name. And I use those platforms typically to announce when these things are going to be. All right, so all right, literal new best friend. Thank you, Nalani. That is very, very encouraging. Let's see. How does art change after the Protestant Reformation? That is a good question, Mary. I'm not sure I'm the best person to necessarily answer that. Let's see. Oh yeah, I got a disliker. That is pretty funny, isn't it? Let's see. Who helped King James leave England during the Glorious Revolution? Mary, that is Louis XIV was king during all that stuff going on there. All right, no penalty for wrong answers. All right, so oh yes, Ileana, we need to talk about your FRQ or whatever. So thanks for watching. Let's see, a lot of stuff came in, and I'm trying to kind of look through that. Just a lot of stuff came in at once. Let's see, Elizabeth. France did not enter the war for religious reasons. So keep in mind that France was, you know, this is basically getting involved for political reasons. So Gustavus Adolphus, they decided to help him because he was there. But you're getting, I mean, the thing is, Elizabeth, if you're asking questions like that, you understand enough of this for the exam, all right? If you've got the phases and you know pretty much the consequences, the cause, the participants, and all that stuff, you should be fine. Where was the Peace of Westphalia signed? Nail, that's a great question because I can answer it really easily. It was signed at Westphalia. It was named because of where it was signed. All right. So let's see. I will, yes, I will be on Twitter, that sort of thing. Not sure when I'll be back, but follow me on Twitter so that you can know all that stuff. I will be announcing those things. So yeah, let's see. So I've got the pragmatic sanction. Hannah, that's having to do with Austria and the Austrian Habsburgs. Okay, I forget. I think it's Ferdinand or something like that. The pragmatic sanction, keep in mind, just like basically the guys, it's a little fuzzy for me right now. The guys, the King of Austria wanted to make it possible to where his daughter would inherit, you know, and that sort of thing. So that's something, yeah, just look that up. I would probably botch it if I tried to explain it off the cuff right now. Okay, I think Daniel's question was answered. Answer every question, okay? Like multiple choice, keep in mind you got about 42 seconds a question. You don't have time to waste on that. Tackle the questions one at a time and just go through it. Don't waste time on the multiple choice. Answer every question. There's no penalty for a wrong answer. But if a question's giving you a hard time, just pick the best answer and move on, okay? But you really don't want to be in a situation where you run out of time. There are going to be some that are going to be obvious that you're going to answer really quickly, but make sure that you don't run out of time. I might do a multiple choice strategy Q&A video between now and the exam, so look for that. All right, so let me see about see if I can find a few more things before I sign off, so that everybody. Let's see. All right, excellent. Okay, y'all are helping me out here. Yes, so that's Charles VI, his daughter Maria Theresa in Austria. So the pragmatic sanction, it had to do with Austria. It had to do with the succession of the Austrian Habsburg Emperor's daughter to the throne. All right, so it looks like when will I be? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe later tonight, and it may be late in the Eastern time zone because I really would like to do an absolutism review. So I'm going to guess, I mean, it could be as late as like 10 o'clock Eastern or something like that. So if any of you are still around at that point or you want to watch it later, those of you on the West Coast, that would be like 7 p.m. So for those of y'all, you know, in Mountain Time, West Coast time, that could be, you know, that could be better for you. So I'm going to try to come back later tonight. You know, we'll just kind of see how all that stuff goes and see where we are then. But thank y'all a lot for coming in and watching this. I mean, this has been really great just to see the support and so many people wanting to do well in the exam. So there will be plenty more between now and then, and I will, as soon as I know when I'm going to do something, I will let y'all know via, you know, putting the thing up, let you know via Twitter and or Instagram and that sort of thing. So I will see y'all soon. I'm going to go ahead and sign out, but for now, good luck on the exam. Until next time.